Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
The knocking was gentle, not the loud, urgent kind that woke him up before. As it turned out, he wasn't asleep yet. "Coming," AJ called out as he got off the bed. Belly stood at his door wearing long pajama bottoms and a tank top. Her eyes looked up at him, pleading for an explanation. "Please," she said softly, "tell me why you're doing this." "She really is lovely," he thought. "I already explained it," he replied. "But it doesn't make sense," she exclaimed. "You don't even know us." AJ shrugged. "I know enough." She gazed at him, clearly frustrated. Then she saw the tablets and laptops behind him, including a big, mobile workstation on a tray from the kitchen. The room was dark, the only light coming from the screens on his bed. "What are you doing?" she asked, looking confused. "Oh?" He smiled. "Looks like a secret lair, doesn't it?" She stared at him. "Mwahahaha," he joked, giving her a silly villain's grin. She laughed. "There it is," AJ said. "What?" she asked. "Your laugh. It's nice," he said, not waiting for her response before pointing at the humming machines behind him. "I'm getting your management software ready for tomorrow. Everything will be saved online, and you'll be able to access it from your phone. I'm also updating your website to make everything work together." "What? What?" Belly stammered. "Nothing goes live without your okay. I promise," AJ assured her. He pointed at the big workstation. "That one over there is." Unexpectedly, she moved closer, gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. You're welcome." Belly took a deep breath and stepped back to give them both some space. "How's your dad doing?" AJ asked, breaking the awkward silence. "Is there any improvement?" Belly nodded. "Yes, the doctor says he could wake up any day now." "That's great," AJ said. "That's amazing." "Or not," Belly frowned. "They aren't sure yet." She bit her lip. "I haven't told anyone else about it," she admitted. "Everyone is cheering for him, including me," AJ said reassuringly. "He'll get through this. I'll help make sure this place is ready for him and your mom when he does." "Why are you doing this?" Belly asked again. He took his time answering. "I'm not doing this just to be nice. I'm hurting too, and this gives me some purpose." A pause followed. Then she asked, "Is that girl helping you too?" He looked at her, frowning slightly, trying to remember her meeting Amaya. "The girl in the white car?" she prompted, folding her arms. "Yes," AJ replied without hesitation. "She is." Belly took a deep breath. "Is that all it is? Help?" "No," he said. "I think it's more than that." Belly pressed her lips together, looking into his eyes. Then she smiled and nodded. "That's good. I'm happy for you." Then she said, "Thank you," and walked away. He watched her until she left the hallway, then he closed the door. Belly held it together until she got inside the cottage, into her room, and then she sank down to the floor. "Oh my goodness," she thought. She realized that if he had been alone that night when she brought him food, if he had let her in, everything would have changed. She covered her face. It would have made a difference that night if he had invited her in. All he needed to do was open the door for her, and she would have walked right in. He held her close, and she felt a spark. It was exciting. She almost acted on her feelings right there. Her cheeks felt warm. She found herself looking at him many times after they talked, even when he was asking about her father. Her mind was racing, and she realized how strong their moment together had been. She knew now that what she felt that morning was real, just like the disappointment she felt now. Instead, he took his time, enjoying the moment with Amaya Paulini, wanting to cherish every second. "What about your class?" AJ asked later, as they settled into a comfortable hug. "I'll leave from here," she replied, her voice playful, hinting that she had plans for their time together. "I'll hold you to that," he said, breathing a little heavier as she playfully touched him. "Whatever you say, Mr. Smith," Amaya replied with enthusiasm. But AJ didn't say much more after that. Fixing up the bed and breakfast was simple. AJ replaced the old Wi-Fi equipment with new points and created a strong network. He had already planned his route when he worked on rewiring the building with Aaron and David Frankel. With the new memory and hard drives he had bought, his mobile workstation worked well as a server. All their devices connected to it, which also linked to the cloud. He finished 4 hours after he had seen Amaya off to her car just after dawn. He knew her sulking was just for show since she eagerly returned his kind gestures. What mattered more was that she didn't seem bothered by the mess they had left behind. "I'm going to wear you all day," she said with a smile that was charming and playful, full of kindness and beauty. He waved goodbye through the car window just as Belly returned from her morning workout. She slowed down, looked at them, then waved and kept going. "Who is that?" Amaya asked, curious. "That's Belinda. Her parents own the bed and breakfast." "Oh," Amaya said, recalling. "Belly, right?" "Yes." "She is very pretty," she noted. AJ had no reason to argue the point. "Yes, she is." He also saw no need to add anything else. Amaya frowned for a moment, then leaned in and gave him a quick kiss goodbye. "See you at lunch, Mr. Smith." Smith. As he walked back, he spotted Belly on the cottage's porch. She was stretching and briefly looked at him before moving on to another stretch. He returned to the bed and breakfast to continue his work. Deborah entered just as he was checking the new cables he had installed. To his surprise, Fred came in with her, and he quickly shook the fire chief's hand, glad to see him. "I'm taking a day off to help you guys set up," Fred said, giving AJ a friendly pat on the back. "And as chief, I think I deserve this time with my wife." Deborah smiled and kissed Fred. "I'm just checking the signal strength," AJ said, holding a laptop. "Then I'll join you." He finished and placed the laptop down in the private office when he heard the door open and close behind him. Turning around, he saw Deborah. In her fitted shirt and jeans, she seemed very confident. "We need to talk, John," she said, walking closer. "Where's Fred?" AJ asked, feeling uneasy. "I asked him to organize some things in the attic," Deborah replied with a smile. "He'll be busy for a bit." "What do you want to talk about?" AJ asked, concerned. Deborah let out a small laugh. "Sit down, John." AJ stayed where he was. "I need to know what's going on." She rolled her eyes. "Suit yourself." Leaning against the table, she watched him closely. "I'm not trying to pressure you. Just relax." "What's on your mind?" he asked. "I'm 48, Deborah shared after a pause. "That means I was finishing high school when you were born. So, I could be your mom." "And yet," she continued, "I went to bed thinking about you, and when I woke up, you were the first thought in my mind." AJ felt his heart race. "Deborah, relax." She smiled. "I've just been thinking about you. But, did you notice why I wanted to sit in the back seat of your car yesterday?" Deborah asked, shaking her head. "You surprised me. I almost leaned in to kiss you at the warehouse. Did you realize that?" "No. Don't pretend you didn't feel it." Deborah laughed. "You knew. I think I want to leave." AJ said, "No." Deborah raised a hand. "Wait, let me finish what I have to say." "I don't want to hear this." AJ protested. "Fred." "I would never betray Fred," Deborah said seriously. "I love him completely." "Then why are you saying this?" "You're not the first man to catch my eye as a married woman," Deborah explained. "I felt tempted before, and I know Fred has too. But he's never been unfaithful to me," she added, "and I've stayed true to him. You're the first person to stir these feelings in me in a long time." "But I didn't do anything," AJ countered. Deborah smiled. "And that's what makes it special. You are just being yourself. I felt a bit jealous when I saw that girl yesterday." She raised her eyebrows. "By the way, she seems very nice. And it looks like she likes you." AJ didn't know how to respond. "Have you talked to her?" Deborah asked. "About what happened? Why you're here?" "No," he replied. Deborah shifted in her seat, her face becoming more serious. "You should. Very soon." AJ nodded. "And then there's Belly," Deborah said, looking even more concerned. "I think you've affected her too." I didn't mean to." "Again," she interrupted. "You are just being yourself." She shook her head. "Honestly, John, at this point any woman who lets you go is making a mistake." AJ could only stare at her. "Anyway, since you have me a bit flustered, I need you to do something for me." Deborah said. "Please give me and Fred some time alone." Understanding her request, AJ smiled and gave her a thumbs up. "And maybe stay away from me for the next few days, so I can get over this little crush." AJ nodded, feeling relieved. "I'll come up with some reasons for Fred." Deborah smiled playfully. "Don't worry. I'll keep him so busy he won't even think of you." AJ felt a blush on his cheeks and shook his head at her, knowing she was teasing. "Are you finished with your work?" AJ nodded. "Yeah." "Then go," Deborah said playfully, "before I get too excited." AJ quickly made his way to the door. "Your lunch is in the kitchen. It's for two," she called out as he left. "Tell Amia I said hi." AJ turned to thank her and then looked back. Deborah's shirt was already on the table, and a quick look showed her great taste. "Don't turn around," Deborah warned, laughing. "Just go tell Fred I need his help in here." AJ opened the door and stepped out. "Yes, ma'am." Deborah laughed again. "Good boy." Outside, AJ leaned against the closed door. "What just happened?" John brought lunch, 2 big stuffed gyros that Deborah had provided. "Oh my goodness," Amia gasped with the first bite, closing her eyes with joy. "This is amazing." The main filling was chicken, mixed with a variety of cooked and fresh vegetables and a special sauce that brought everything together. Even though it was delicious, she could only finish 3/4 of her gyro. He finished his and helped her with the rest at her request. They were sitting in the park again, under a different tree. He had planned ahead and brought a picnic mat, a large juice box, and some disposable plates and cups. He also surprised her with flowers, making her smile even more. She welcomed him with a big smile at the park entrance and held his hand, carrying the bouquet as they looked for a place to sit. When they arrived, she was disappointed to see her favorite spot taken, but helped him lay out the blanket in another nice spot that was free. She had over 2 hours to spend before her next class, and she wanted to enjoy every minute with him. Once they were seated on the blanket, she felt the warmth of the sun and the joy of being with him. He noticed how relaxed she was, and they shared stories about their lives. A big part of their bond was the connection they felt. She had happy thoughts, especially recalling the fun moments they had experienced together. In the present, she leaned against him, and he wrapped his arms around her as he talked about his life in Dubai and Kuala Lumpur. She loved how open he was, sharing stories freely. In response, she shared her own experiences living with her parents in Buenos Aires, Nairobi, and Gaborone. She showed him an essay she was writing about those places and their growing economies. She felt a bit distracted, enjoying being with him and feeling the warmth of his presence. She playfully adjusted her shirt, wanting to keep the light-hearted atmosphere between them. But it was clear he wanted to get closer, and she didn't mind that at all. She stopped replying to his questions about her essay and closed her eyes as she felt him leaning against her, gently kissing her neck. "You're asking for trouble, Miss Paolini," John said with a playful tone. "The Bronen-Stedman Hotel," Amaya said quietly after a moment. "It has a bathroom for those with different needs." She turned to look at him, locking eyes. "I'm not wearing any extra layers," she added. In just 7 minutes, they reached the hotel at the park's east entrance, leaving their things behind as they hurried inside. After 2 more minutes, they entered the bathroom. He only needed to pull her skirt up slightly. Instead, he had made her feel a bit exposed, which surprised her. She glanced at their reflection in the mirror, feeling embarrassed and excited. "You're so beautiful," he said, his voice filled with admiration. Then he gently turned her around, and they shared a sweet kiss as she leaned into him. He nearly lifted her as they moved closer together, his soft kisses making her feel a rush of happiness. Her heart raced as she embraced their special connection. "Tell me what you want," she said, her breath quickening. "Come closer," he said, and she moved toward him, feeling a wave of vulnerability wash over her. Her cheeks warmed as their closeness deepened, surprising even herself with her boldness. She continued, feeling more alive than ever as they exchanged gentle kisses, lost in the moment. She sensed the strong connection between them, sharing a special intimacy in the cozy space. "You are truly beautiful, Amaya Paolini," John said, admiration in his eyes before hugging her again. In that moment, all she felt was pride and happiness as she wrapped her arms around him, their lips meeting once more and his hands guiding her. Is this love? Amaya wondered yet again. He helped her get dressed again, a routine they had formed. After that, he left the bathroom, and she soon followed, looking for him. Even though they had shared tender moments just moments before, he was stirred again as she approached, smiling widely. He shook his head, amused. Amaya showed a playful confidence. In the short time he had been away, she had adjusted her outfit in a fun way. He noticed others admiring her, but her attention was on him as she walked over, took his hand and led him outside, a teasing smile on her face. She was showcasing her charm just for him. How did this happen? He wondered again, captivated by her. They went to get their things, and she paused a few times to share sweet, quick kisses while still holding her bouquet of flowers. With more than 45 minutes to spare, Amaya took him to a place she claimed had the best milkshakes in the county. Surprised? She teased, noticing his astonishment as they stood in front of the flavor bomb. Yeah, he replied, genuinely surprised. She gave him a playful look, raising her eyebrows. Or maybe you want something else? She bounced a little, her excitement contagious. He laughed at her giggle, and she kissed him again before pulling him into the lively place where they had first met. Almost every spot on the benches was taken by students tapping away on laptops or tablets, pointing to screens and discussing. Some had actual books open, writing in the margins and highlighting passages. Amaya took in the crowd and the noise, confidently pushing through to the counter, which had 2 servers this time. One was the woman he had seen before, and the other was a young man with spiked, bright yellow hair. "Hey, Cindy!" Amaya called out. The woman smiled back. "Hi, Amaya!" Her eyes narrowed slightly when she noticed the flowers and how close Amaya and John were. She looked at them with a knowing smile. "You two?" Amaya smiled and nodded. "Cool," Cindy said, glancing at John with interest. "What can I get you?" As Amaya placed her order, John heard a flurry of frustrated comments from a nearby table. A group of 3 boys and 1 girl were huddled around a laptop. "But everything looks right!" one of the boys exclaimed, clearly frustrated. "This should work." "But it's not working. Nothing is working," another boy said with a sigh. "This project is impossible." "The professor just makes it harder," a third boy added. "I get confused the more he explains." The girl nodded, shaking her head. As Amaya finished her snack, she leaned back against AJ, smiling to herself as he casually put his arm around her. He noticed people looking at them, some curious and some admiring, especially from a few girls nearby. "Oh no!" A girl at a nearby table groaned. "Now the timer stopped working." "Just go back to the last version that worked," one of the boys suggested. "I already did." "It's still not working," she exclaimed in frustration. AJ glanced at their screen and said softly to Amaya, "Doesn't that sound familiar?" "We weren't that loud," she replied, a bit defensive. He laughed. "You were, especially Rolly. Then you—" She pouted playfully. He laughed again, noticing another mistake in their code. "I should help them. I'll be back in a minute." Amaya looked unsure. "I don't want to share you, Mr. Smith." He gave her a reassuring smile. "Just for a moment." She nodded slowly. "Don't forget you promised to walk me to class." He nodded and approached the group that was struggling. "Don't do that," he said kindly to the student about to make a mistake. "Let's take a look. First, you're using the wrong tool here." Fred Linden leaned back in his chair, enjoying a quiet moment with his wife as they finished setting up the last room. It had been a long but rewarding day, each room carefully arranged, lamps adjusted, and TVs set up. Deborah looked at him with warmth. "It feels good to work together again, doesn't it?" He smiled back. "It really does." They had grown closer over the years, facing challenges and celebrating successes. Though they had faced distractions, they always returned to what truly mattered. Deborah had talked about John Smith a lot recently. She admired his determination and kindness. Their daughter Tina had once said he was kind of interesting, and Deborah had asked for more details. Fred noticed the attention his wife received and the interest from influential people in her past, but she had always chosen home. He remembered one time clearly when she was managing a hotel and had received an offer from a well-known guest. She chose to come home instead. Fred had faced his own tests too, a neighbor, a former classmate, even an old flame. The options had been there, but like Deborah, he had made his choice. Still, there was something about John Smith that lingered in his mind. After everything that had happened, it was hard to believe that John would be interested in another man's wife, especially someone who had helped him during a difficult time, even if that help had once been unwelcomed. He realized that deep pain could bend one's judgment and make things seem unclear. So when John politely called to ask if Deborah could go with him to an electronics warehouse about 90 minutes away and explained why, Fred felt a mix of unease and respect for John's effort. For Dawn and Pam's sake, he couldn't say no. But when Deborah called to share where she was going, her excited tone made Fred's mind worry. He wondered if they might stop somewhere quiet, or if this trip could turn into something more than it looked. On impulse, he borrowed a younger officer's car, promising to fill the gas tank, and drove to wait near the shopping center. He saw John's car go by and followed at a safe distance. There were no unexpected stops. The car went straight to an industrial park and parked outside a large warehouse. Fred watched as Deborah and John went inside, Deborah holding John's arm as they entered. A moment later, his phone rang. It was Deborah, her voice warm and full of excitement as she shared the same news John had told him earlier. Fred felt guilty for his worries. When Deborah handed the phone to John, Fred couldn't help but make a playful comment about John stealing his wife, which was not entirely a joke. So, he waited. Less than an hour later, a truck arrived, and workers started loading the things John had bought. John and Deborah came out with another man, probably the warehouse manager. Fred felt tense as he saw Deborah give John a hug, but John kept his hands at her waist respectfully. When she looked up at him, as if waiting for something, John held his ground and kept things appropriate. Deborah soon stepped back and got into the back seat of the car. John shook the manager's hand and took the driver's seat. Again, there were no unusual stops, and they returned to Millie's 2 hours later. Deborah gave John a more restrained hug this time, and Fred watched them unload the new equipment and take away the old TVs and fridges. John then drove off, and Fred stayed until Belly arrived. He returned the borrowed car, filled the tank as promised, and gave it back to the lieutenant. That night, Deborah was quieter than usual as she lay beside him. But the next morning, she greeted him warmly and suggested they spend the day together at the bed and breakfast. Even though it would cost him an extra day off, Fred quickly said yes. He did not want Deborah to be at Millie's alone, especially looking so bright and happy around others. "I love you," he said as they got ready for the day. She smiled and thanked him, her eyes shining with happiness. They worked together all day, setting up the last rooms, moving TVs, placing mini fridges, and making little fixes. They laughed between tasks, remembering old times and playfully teasing each other over small things. Even with the long hours, the moments they shared brought back a strong bond between them. By late afternoon, they finished all the work. Exhausted but happy, they took a short break in one of the rooms they had completed. Fred looked at his wife with admiration, grateful for her loyalty, her energy, and her presence. Outside, the world kept moving, but inside that room, the calm they found was something he knew he wanted to hold on to. He laughed as she affectionately wrapped her legs around him. "Please, Chief," she said with determination, her smile bright. Fred felt an even deeper love for her as she kissed him and nestled close, her eyes slowly closing as she drifted off to sleep with a serene look. When she awoke, he was ready for her, and their closeness sent a pleasant thrill through her. They exchanged looks of concern, then carefully got up and moved away from the bed. Fred couldn't help but touch her as they walked downstairs to where their clothes were piled. Both of their phones started ringing. Fred found his first in his jeans pocket and answered. "Hello? Dad, where have you been?" he heard his daughter Tina say. "I'm at Millie's with your mom," Fred replied, glancing at Deborah, who looked worried while answering her own phone. "What's wrong, honey?" Tina explained what happened, and Fred felt protective as he listened. Tears welled in Deborah's eyes as he hugged her, both of them sharing a joyful moment amid the unexpected news. Don Thompson had woken up. AJ felt a mix of nerves as he made his way down the bright hallway. Nurses, doctors, and visitors passed by, including police officers and a firefighter who stood tall when they spotted Fred. "Evening, Chief." "Hey, Brad." Fred stopped for a moment. "What's going on?" "My sister's child sprained an ankle badly." "Will she be okay?" Fred asked, worry showing on his face. Brad nodded. "Yes, but she'll need some time to rest." "How old is she?" 8. "I'll send her a helmet and jacket. Would she like that?" Fred offered. Brad smiled. "She's a real tomboy. She would love it." Fred exchanged a few more words with Brad before continuing on. AJ nodded at the man as they walked past, noticing him glance at Amaya, just like Fred had when he introduced them. She held onto his arm while they followed Fred to the elevators. Fred pressed the button for the 5th floor, and soon the doors opened to a quieter area. The smell of cleaning supplies was strong, and the few nurses and doctors moved purposefully down the hall. Fred greeted people as they walked by. "I come here too often," Fred said quietly, looking towards a sign that read "Burn Unit." He turned and walked across to another corridor labeled Long-Term Care. The automatic doors opened, revealing a nurse's station with staff talking quietly among the sounds of machines. One nurse looked up, saw Fred, and waved him in. AJ spotted Belly, Deborah, and Kate Frankel standing with another woman who resembled an older Belly. Jason was off to the side, quietly on his phone. Pam Thompson might have looked different from her daughter, but it was clear where Belly got her beauty. Even though she looked tired, she seemed happy. Everyone turned when Fred walked in. "What is she doing here?" Belly asked, surprised to see Amaya. "Belly," Deborah said, surprised. "I'm sorry for coming here," Amaya said softly. "She's with me," AJ quickly replied. "I invited her." "And that's perfectly fine," Deborah said, looking at Belly. "If you're with John, you're welcome here." "I didn't mean," Belly began, looking flustered. "That's all right," Fred said. "Everyone, relax. This is a good day." He glanced at his wife. A very good day. AJ understood why Deborah looked a bit shy. "Pam," Fred continued, "this is John Smith." "Good evening, Mrs. Thompson," AJ said politely. "Hold on a moment," Pam said. Then she stepped forward to give him a warm hug, clearly moved. As Pam hugged him, AJ heard Amaya speaking softly. "John told me about your dad. I'm really glad he's going to be okay." "Thank you," Belly said. "That's very nice of you. I can wait outside if you want." "No," Pam said, releasing him. "You're staying right here." AJ felt a bit uncomfortable, so he asked, "How is he?" "He recognized me," Pam said, her eyes bright with excitement. "He recognized everyone." "That's incredible," AJ replied, feeling truly happy. He already knew that Don had passed all his tests. Fred had shared that news. "He'll need physical and speech therapy," Belly said, smiling now. "But other than that, he's fine. The doctors say he'll recover fully." "He's resting now," Pam said. "But once I tell him what you did, I know he'll want to meet you." Belly, Deborah, and Kate nodded enthusiastically. "Can you come back tomorrow?" Pam asked. "Please?" "I'll be working in Sutton tomorrow," AJ started, but he quickly realized he had no other answer to give. "But I will. I'll be here." "Good," Pam replied. Then she smiled and nodded toward Amaya. "And she can come too. Don likes pretty women." Amaya was surprised, and everyone else laughed except for Belly, who rolled her eyes at her mother, and AJ, who could see Amaya's face turn red. "Then he must be a very happy man," AJ said, looking at everyone. "It seems he's always surrounded by what he likes." "Smooth, Mr. Smith," Jason joked, laughing as the women giggled, including Amaya. "Smooth. I just wanted to see your face, to know you're real. Who does that? Who helps people they don't even know?" Pam finally said, her voice full of feeling, with tears welling in her eyes again. AJ felt his face get warm, embarrassed to see tears on Belly's face, too. "I wanted to make up for what AJ started. "That's enough," Fred interrupted. "Don't say that, John. Don't you dare." He noticed Deborah and Belly giving him serious looks. AJ took a deep breath. "I saw I could help," he said softly. "So I did. I needed to. You can't know what that place means to our family. You have no idea what you've done for us when we needed it the most. For Don. For me." Pam was now crying, and so were the other women. She hugged him again. "Thank you, Mr. John Smith. Thank you so much." Amaya walked with John Smith back to his car, holding on to his arm, quiet and thoughtful. "My lady," he said as he opened the door for her, making her smile. She watched him as he walked around to the driver's side, opened the door, and got inside. "John," she said. He turned to her, and she gently held his face in her hands, looking into his eyes. After a moment, she lightly tapped her own cheek. John's eyes widened in surprise, and he instinctively took her wrist. "What the—" "It's okay," she assured him. "What are you doing?" he asked, puzzled. "I want to be sure I'm not dreaming. I want to know you're real." He looked at her in confusion. "I don't understand." "You helped their band B without expecting anything back," she said. "With your own money, right?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then he let go of her wrist. That's not important." "Then you can tell me why." John looked at her and then turned away. She reached out and took his hand. "Why would you spend so much to help people you've never met?" "Because I can't. I won't. Use that money on myself," he finally said. "It feels wrong." "Is it yours?" she asked gently. "Yes," he admitted. "It's mine. Legally, ethically, morally, I earned it." "Then how can it be tainted?" He didn't respond. Instead, he kept staring out the front window as she gently touched his hand, hoping he would speak, hoping he would share his feelings. Then he turned to her, tears starting to form in his eyes. "I told you I was hurt, Amaya." "Then let me help you," she urged. "Please, I want to be there for you. Can't you see, John? It's too late for me." "Tell me the truth," she said suddenly, urgency in her voice. "Are you real? Is your name really John Smith? Have you been dishonest with me? With everyone?" He looked truly puzzled by her questions, but her worries had surfaced, and she needed to say more. "How can someone like you not have someone special in their life? How can someone so kind and wonderful be alone in a broken-down bed-and breakfast in Camberley?" John looked even more confused at that. It made her heart ache. "How can there not be someone who cares for you, who misses you like I do?" Amaya asked. She wanted him to realize what he might be missing. "Yes, Mr. John Smith, if that's your real name, that's why it feels too late for me. I care deeply for you already." "Amaya," John said, "you don't know me well enough." She let out a small laugh. "I know you're the man who spent a lot of money fixing someone else's place just to help. I did it because it helped me." "That's not right," Amaya replied, looking at him sincerely. "You're the man who took time to assist students you didn't even know with their project, even though you didn't get much credit for it." He tried to respond, but she kept going. "You're the one who helped a group of sophomores with their coding work." He chuckled lightly, and she smiled back at him. At that moment, she decided to cherish the time they spent together, so he promised the disappointed students he would return, and then walked with her to her class to enjoy their milkshakes, which he agreed were wonderful. He kept his promise, meeting her at the Flavor Bomb after her class, now surrounded by more interested students. She walked in just as he was explaining how the zebra framework worked with different types. In that moment, watching him, she knew there was no turning back, and she had felt that way for a while. Every day since she had driven him to Hammer Jack had drawn her in more. It was after he had finished with his new students, and they were walking to his car, her heart already racing with excitement, that a call came in from Fred Linden about Don Thompson. Pam Thompson had just learned about the bed-and breakfast renovation and wanted to speak with him. She added softly, "You encourage me to go to my classes, even though I'd rather be with you." She gently touched his cheek, looking at him with curiosity. "How are you not married, Mr. John Smith? How is no one with you?" He looked away, lost in thought. "Please," she pleaded, "tell me what happened to you. Let me know you better. Let me help." "You're already helping." She smiled gently. "And I promise to keep helping, no matter what, for as long as you need me." He remained quiet again. "But please," she insisted, "I need to know. You're always on my mind. I want to make you happy." Finally, he turned to her and shared, "I was married, but one day I discovered it wasn't real. It never really was." What do you mean it wasn't real? Amaya asked, confused. I was married to her, he explained, but she never really cared about me. Then he told her everything. He talked about his changing situation, the coffee shop, the letter, the rings, and the papers. He shared about his discomfort outside the shop when he felt he lost his dignity. He spoke of getting on the first train and riding it until he reached the end of the line in Camberley. He shared his challenges, how Fred, Deborah, and Belinda Thompson helped him through his hard times. She listened, feeling a mix of horror, empathy, and anger at everything he had been through. As he spoke, his face became more expressionless, and by the end, tears rolled down her cheeks while he stayed composed, his eyes distant as she looked at him, her heart aching for him. Amaya felt unsure of what to do. She had learned what she wanted, but it came at the cost of making him revisit his pain, and it clearly affected him. At last, she moved closer and sat beside him. She kissed him gently, their lips meeting briefly before she leaned in for another kiss. When she pulled away, she felt warmth flooding through her as she looked into his eyes. "You're mine now, Mr. Smith," Amaya said confidently. She hugged him again. "I'm here for you." His eyebrow raised in curiosity. "Taking care of you," she explained. "I'm here for you." She smiled warmly. "If you thought today was surprising, just wait. Let me help you through this." Deborah stepped out of the bathroom, letting her dress fall as she approached Fred, who was reading the daily station reports on a tablet after being away for nearly 2 days. He looked up, surprised to see her coming over. "Fire Chief Frederick Linden, sir," she playfully announced, giving him a mock salute. "I'm respectfully requesting your attention, sir." He nodded in approval. Her expression changed slightly, showing concern. "Is this about John?" She looked troubled. "You don't need to keep it from me." Her face became serious. "Nothing happened, I promise." He took her hand and moved a little closer, giving her a warm smile. "I know you came back to me." She paused for a moment, but then offered a small, thankful smile. "You've gone off to others before and still returned to me," he said to comfort her. She took a deep breath, grateful for his kindness. "But it's fine," he said softly. "You're here now, and that's what is important." She nodded slowly, feeling at peace, as they both enjoyed the comfort of each other's company. "You were really loud," she laughed at Amaya's embarrassed expression. "Don't worry. I didn't listen for long. I just went back to my room." She paused. "I honestly thought you were just having a one-night fling." Amaya looked at Belly for a moment and then smiled, admitting, "That was after our first date." Belly's eyebrows lifted. "That's quick." "I knew I had to get serious with him," Amaya said, shrugging. "I really liked him, and it made me giddy." She looked Belly in the eye. "I think I was almost in love then." She shook her head in disbelief. "He told me he was staying at a bed and breakfast, had no car or phone, no email, and didn't have a steady job, yet I knew I had to act fast." Belly understood. They could be friends and like each other, but John was already taken. She smiled sincerely, but there was a hint of regret. "I guess I missed my chance." "Yes," Amaya responded, smiling to show she meant no harm, just making her point clear. "I guess you did." Belly took a deep breath and offered her hand. "Okay, got it. Good luck. I really mean it." Amaya shook Belly's hand, almost like a formal agreement. "Thank you, Belly." Belly smiled again. "I suppose I'll see you around?" Amaya nodded shyly. "Yes." "All right," Belly said cheerfully. "Looks like you'll have a lot of fun." Amaya laughed. "That's putting it lightly." Belly laughed back, then waved goodbye and walked up the driveway. Amaya watched her go to the cottage, wishing for a similar figure, though she was happy with herself. Then she continued her jog. On day 2 of AJ setting up everything in House 5, Murphy made his entrance early, which meant he spent most of his time in House 7. He was busy marking the walls for cable placements in the dusty basement of House 5 when he heard a loud shout from the foreman. "Darn it!" Mike shouted. "Murphy!" As AJ got closer, he saw Mike and 2 team leaders crowded around a section of the wall that was uncovered after the old boiler was taken out. 3 other crew members stood nearby, looking unhappy too. The bricks were bulging inward with cracks going outward. A small stream of water was seeping through the cracks. "Wow," AJ said. "You can say that again," Randall, the electrical team leader, frowned. "There's water pressure behind this wall," Mike said, mostly to express his frustration. "This whole section could cave in." AJ nodded, familiar with water pressure from following his uncle around over the years. "What does this mean for our work?" "The water level around here is higher than we thought," Hank, the site engineer, explained. "We need to put in a proper drainage system and strengthen this wall before we can do any more work down here." Mike scratched his head. "So, we need a drainage system outside, make the wall waterproof, and add support for this wall, right?" "Exactly," Hank replied, nodding. "Murphy," Mike muttered. "We'll have to change the main lines we planned for this wall and move the panel," Randall complained. AJ thought for a moment. "I suggest moving the panel to the east wall and running the cables along the ceiling instead. We're using EMT for the cables, so moisture won't be a problem, and it gives us more options." Randall followed his finger and then shrugged. "I'm fine with that." Hank sighed. "The drainage work will take at least 2 weeks." Mike frowned. "House 5 is in a dip, so this might be a one-time problem, but we need to check the other houses quickly for the same issue." "Sure," said Hank. "In the meantime," Mike said, looking at AJ, "what will you do?" "You can't set up the NOC here, not for now." AJ shrugged, having already thought this through. "I'll start setting up the backup NOC in House 7 if there's no similar problem there. Then we can run the fiber cables between the houses through the attics to keep everything connected. We'll need to upgrade the electrical service in 7 to handle the extra load." Randall grumbled. "I'll send my crew over to get started in 7. Mike nodded. "Great. Let's get this moving again." "Let's hope for no more surprises," Hank said. After the laughter faded, Hank went to check the other houses for the same issue, starting with House 7. Minutes later, he confirmed everything was fine, and AJ, with help from Randall and his crew, began the process of moving everything to restart in House 7. Fortunately for Mike Lyman and Bill Garrison's budget, no other house had the same high water issue. They were going to add a waterproof layer and support to the 4 middle houses anyway. Murphy kept to himself for the rest of the day, and AJ was pleased to mark off almost everything on his adjusted to-do list, needing just an extra hour to finish up. "Being with you right now feels a bit wrong, like I'm ruining something." She frowned. "Don't put me on a pedestal, John. I'm not someone you need to look after." "That's the problem, Amia," John replied. "I want to look after you." Her frown deepened. "Even from yourself?" "Especially from myself," he said. "I'm not okay, Amaya." She looked at him sharply, sitting up straight. "You don't get to decide what I can handle. It's not your choice." "Do you like me?" She pressed. "Do you enjoy being with me? Talking with me? You know I do. Do you think I can't make my own choices? That I'm too young or not smart enough to figure things out?" "Amaya." "Just answer, Mr. Smith," she interrupted. John was quiet for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "No." "Then please stop," Amaya said softly. "I care about you. Being close to you makes me happy." When she leaned closer, it surprised him. She paused, taking a breath, enjoying his confused expression. "You'll say it back to me soon, and you'll mean it," she said confidently. She leaned in again, more determined. "I'll win you over, Mr. Smith." He was already committed to her, but she moved closer, creating a strong connection between them. "I'm yours, John," she declared. "Get used to it." She shifted her gaze to him, wanting him to see her determination. "Yes?" she asked once more, looking into his eyes. "Yes," he replied, giving in. It quickly became clear that more work was needed for House 5 because it was sinking lower due to the water table. Luckily, the engineers said this was a simple task, but it would take another 2.5 days of work in the basement. AJ decided that House 4 would serve as the backup center, since House 5 had been permanently impacted by House 7's situation. "A greater distance between the main center and the backup is always better," AJ told Mike Lyman, "and it shouldn't affect the schedule much." Lyman nodded in agreement after Randall shrugged, showing he had no objections. The renovation teams began their work in House 7, planning to continue up to House 10 before going back to work on House 6. At that point, all the construction work on House 5 would be finished, allowing the workers to move smoothly towards House 1. AJ would be right behind them, helping the electrical team set up the power lines for the cables they needed. At first, he had some disagreements with the electrical crew. AJ liked to organize and label cables, and he started doing the same for the power lines while he worked. His uncle Gary, who usually dressed quite casually, was very focused on being neat and organized in his work. He always encouraged AJ to adopt that same mindset. AJ remembered the stern look and the firm poke in his chest when Uncle Gary advised him, "I don't have time to remember where each cable goes. I just want to find it, fix it, and move on." There was some tension until Randall stepped in and sided with AJ, considering AJ's role in installing the power lines. A couple of days later, a quick check confirmed that AJ's way of organizing was effective. One of his labeled ties helped to identify a junction box immediately. A few days later, AJ entered a locker room to find everyone laughing, with 37 tabbed zip ties attached to his locker. With a shrug, he grinned at them and then calmly used a wire cutter to cut each tie. When he opened the locker, he discovered it was stuffed with plastic fasteners, and the laughter continued around him. He joined in the fun, especially after seeing a picture taken by a camera that perfectly captured the moment as the cable ties spilled out all over him. After that initiation, AJ and the electrical team grew close. By the end of his work on House 7, some younger apprentices started following him around. By the second week, experienced electricians were asking him questions about the power wiring. AJ also got along well with the team that put up walls. They would follow him and the electrical crew from one room to another, hanging up drywall, closing up walls, and fixing any holes made during the wiring. It quickly turned into a friendly competition. The electrical team, completely supporting AJ, lost if the drywall crew finished before their electric work was done in the next room, allowing them to move in first. The painting and carpentry teams joined in the fun, too. The carpenters would rush in after the drywall team to take measurements before the painters arrived with their rollers and brushes. The carpenters usually finished their custom work on the cut baseboards, crown molding, and wainscoting by the time the painters completed their tasks. Mike Lyman felt relieved and a bit surprised that everything was going smoothly as the teams moved from House 7 to House 10 without any issues. "How are you all doing this, Mike?" Bill Garrison asked, looking puzzled at the project chart hanging on the foreman's wall. They were in Mike's office as the teams got ready to start on House 6, right on time and within budget. Mike raised his hands, matching his boss's confusion. Hank, the lead structural engineer, was talking with the crew leader from the demolition and framing team, while AJ, Randall, and Lenny from the drywall team discussed their plans. AJ wanted to leave early that day, and when Bill and Mike found out why, they quickly agreed, with Randall giving his usual response. Bill decided to join the small group greeting Don Thompson as he returned home from the hospital. They arrived on time. Belly, Deborah, and Kate had decorated the big Georgian building and the path to the cottage with ribbons and bows that morning and were now busy in the kitchen. Kate and Deborah's daughters were filling balloons, while Fred, Jason, Tyler, Aaron, and David hung a big banner at the bed and breakfast and a smaller one near the cottage. Amaya had come in after her last class and jumped right into helping with the cooking and setting outdoor tables. Since she spent almost every night in room 103, Deborah treated her like family. AJ was glad that Deborah's earlier crush on him seemed to have faded, and their interactions became easy and friendly, without any awkwardness. Belly was more reserved around him now, but still kind and polite. AJ chose to appreciate the friendship they had. She was friendly with Amaya as well, and they started running and doing yoga stretches together in the mornings. Amaya shared with AJ that they talked very little during their runs, enjoying the time together and feeling safer as two women. Due to Don and Pam's request, especially considering Don's ongoing therapy needs, the county's Department of Inspections had been called in to check the bed and breakfast, and Millie's had reopened a few weeks earlier. The relaunch included a new website, listings on accommodation sites, and new hotel management software that AJ had set up for the property. AJ felt uneasy that his stay in room 103 had reduced their available rooms to 9. Deborah reminded him that without him, there would be no rooms at all. When Don Thompson arrived, 5 rooms were already booked. He stepped out of the van to cheers and applause from the guests. They had initially been puzzled by the decorations, but they soon learned about the owner, the grandson of Millie and Milton. Everyone happily joined in welcoming Don, who used a walker to navigate the path. Pam hurried over to embrace her son, who had just come down the steps toward them. AJ had already met Benjamin Thompson, who had arrived straight from the airport about half an hour after AJ had driven in with Bill Garrison. Bellie's joyful leap into her brother's arms gave a glimpse of her mother's reaction to his surprise visit. Don's greeting with his son was less vocal but equally moving, as both men hugged, tears rolling down their faces. Don then hugged his daughter before everyone else came up to shake his hand or give him a hug, including the guests, who wished him a speedy recovery. After Don's heartfelt speech of thanks, many people were in tears. He looked at his wife with love, praising her for standing by him. He thanked his children too, especially highlighting his daughter's decision to help their parents and his son for sending money to help with medical bills. He also recognized the support from their extended family during his hospital stay. When he spoke to AJ, he said, "Mr. John Smith, I can't express how grateful I am for what you've done for us. All I can offer is my thanks and a place in my family. You will always have a home here." AJ managed a small, somewhat shy smile while Amaya leaned against him, holding his hand. "My mister." "Good guy," she whispered. "And you too, young lady," Don said playfully while squeezing his wife's hand as she rolled her eyes with a smile at Amaya. Amaya blushed. Ben Thompson noticed her and kept looking at her, which AJ observed as well. Bill Garrison also seemed distracted, without a wife around to catch his attention. "I already respected you a lot, John," Bill told him later, "but now I'm just amazed." "Please tell me you have a sister," Ben said to Amaya. "No," she replied, her smile tinged with a touch of sadness that AJ had noticed earlier. "I'm an only child." "Really?" Ben said, turning to AJ with a playful frown. "You're the only one? I'm so jealous." AJ laughed, and Ben joined in as Amaya smiled and blushed. Ben had watched AJ closely from the moment they met. "Tell me why you're here," he insisted, crossing his arms and motioning for AJ to step aside. "I spoke with your sister." "I'm not her." "That's true," AJ replied, "but I wanted to tell you what I told her. Your parents seem like nice people. I thought I could help." Ben looked doubtful. "That's all? You want me to believe that?" "I have my reasons," AJ said, "but it's not something I want to discuss." "So you're not some secret wealthy person?" AJ laughed, but it was a bit bitter. "No, I'm not. I wouldn't be here if I were." "So this is about making up for something?" Ben asked. "Making up for what?" "Yes, trying to make up for a mistake," Ben said with a hint of sarcasm. For some reason, AJ found this funny. "Are you asking if I'm in trouble for something?" Ben blinked and then smiled a little. "Well, are you?" "The money is all good, if that's what you mean. It's legally mine to use as I want, totally above board." Ben kept staring at him, but AJ held his gaze, saying nothing more. Finally, Ben asked, "Is that all you're going to tell me?" AJ shrugged. "In short, yes." "That's not enough." AJ shrugged again. "I can also tell you I gave your parents a document that says everything I did was for free and that they owe me nothing." This silenced Ben Thompson, showing that AJ had sensed there were things Ben didn't fully understand. Just then, Amaya came in with a big salad bowl, and Ben nearly gasped in surprise. Aaron, David, and Tyler quickly stopped what they were doing to help her carry the bowl to the table, much to their sister's dismay. Amaya smiled at them, wanting to carry the bowl herself to avoid any fuss. "Who? Who is that?" Ben stuttered, arms hanging at his sides. "Her name is Amaya Paolini," AJ said, noticing the boys' and Ben's reactions. He saw Bill staring as she placed the bowl on the table. With her hair tied back and looking nice, Amaya seemed effortlessly beautiful as she turned to go back inside. Then she noticed him, and he felt a thrill as she smiled. She quickly walked over, and he stepped closer, placing his hands gently on her waist as they shared warm looks. "Hey, my love," she said. "When did you come back?" "Not too long ago," AJ replied, smiling. I came with my boss. Amaya didn't let go. Oh? So I have you all to myself after this? Yeah, you do. AJ grinned. Then he remembered. Oh, this is Ben, AJ said, turning to greet him. Belly's brother. Oh. She smiled warmly at Ben and reached out her hand. Hi, so happy to meet you. I'm Amaya. It took Ben a moment to gather himself to reply as he shook her hand. Nice. Nice to meet you too. Then he said, You're really beautiful. AJ noticed her smile turn shy, but she kept looking at Ben and said, Thank you. You have your dad's charm. My dad? Yes, Amaya said, blushing. He. AJ jumped in to help. He said something similar. He wasn't lying, Ben replied strongly. Well, I need to go back in before Deborah gets upset, Amaya said, giving AJ a light touch on his arm. I have a surprise for you, she promised. I'll tell you about it later. Okay. AJ smiled. She smiled at Ben again. Thanks for the compliment, Ben, and I'm really happy your dad is coming home. Oh my. Ben watched her leave and then turned back to AJ. How did you do that? AJ raised an eyebrow. Do what? Get someone like that? AJ saw that it wasn't just Ben looking at him with surprise. Aaron and David looked almost in awe while Tyler stared at the doors of the house where Amaya had just walked out. I honestly don't know, AJ replied sincerely. It feels more like she chose me. Ben stared at him in disbelief. Now Ben Thompson came over as his father walked up the path to the cottage, taking slow, careful steps. Don Thompson insisted on doing it by himself, using his walker and with his wife beside him, while everyone else cheered him on. AJ was helping Amaya stack up the serving plates and bowls. The boys were all around too, trying to help and hoping to get a smile in return. Tyler had the clever idea of going to the kitchen to help bring out the rest of the food after the banner was hung, and he received a grateful smile from every woman in the kitchen, including Amaya. I saw the paper you made, Ben said finally. AJ looked at him. Okay. And I have to be honest, I'm confused, Ben said after a moment of thought. I don't really get what's happening with you, and I can't figure out why you did this. He took a deep breath and looked at his father, who was now more than halfway to the cottage. But my dad really loves this place. It means a lot to him, to us. It's a family thing, and seeing it busy with guests gives Dad a lot of strength to keep going, to get better. AJ felt uneasy but answered honestly. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, John Smith. Ben reached out his hand, and when AJ took it, he placed his other hand over theirs. For my dad, for my family, thank you so much. The tears in Ben's eyes made AJ feel a bit shy, but he smiled sincerely and nodded. Then Ben Thompson let go and joined the crowd cheering for his father's return. AJ noticed Belly looking at him, but she quickly turned away just as Amaya walked up and took his hand. With the boys helping out, everything was packed and moved into the kitchen in less than 2 minutes. Amaya quietly led him to join in the cheering and clapping as Don Thompson made it home and raised his hand in victory. Belly sank onto the couch next to her brother, who was focused on his tablet. She smiled when she saw he had made tea and set 3 cups on the table. It was funny because he used to tease tea, calling it girly, until his first boss on the rigs turned out to love it. He learned that tea kept him warm and helped him work better. Now he was quite the tea lover. She took a sip and felt more relaxed. He had added lemon and honey. This is really good. He smiled but kept reading. Just a minute, sis. I'm catching up on my cruise work. She sniffed but felt proud of him. He had gone from a beginner to leading a drilling team in less than 3 years. So she waited patiently, enjoying her tea. He finished in about a minute. So, he said, what's up, Belly? What's going on with Jeff? She frowned slightly. That's over. I broke up with him. She raised an eyebrow. What's happening with Brianna? He grimaced. I think we're heading in that direction. I can see that. Belly teased him. I noticed how you were looking at Amaya. I was not. Ben started, then sighed. Yeah, I guess I was. Belly playfully sniffed. You have to admit, he said, she's really pretty. And completely interested in John. Belly tried to hide her bitterness. He winced but smiled. I could see that. He poured himself some tea. Tell me about him. This John Smith guy. I don't know much more than you, Belly said softly. He just showed up and caused quite a stir, Ben finished. She wrinkled her nose. It was way worse than that. It felt like everything had gone wrong. I asked if he was okay. She looked at her brother with curiosity. And he said no. Belly took another sip of tea. Did he come with her? Ben asked. Who? Did he come with Amia? She pressed her lips together. No, they met here. She's a student at Kellerson. They met after Uncle Fred and Auntie Deborah helped him out. Ben frowned. Why did you make that face? I wasn't nice to him. She shook her head. I called him a selfish loser when he woke up, and then I left without thinking. She covered her face. He began working on the building the next day. Are we talking about John? A voice came from the hallway. Both turned to see their mother coming in after saying goodnight to their father. Yes, Ben replied. Wait a moment, she said. Let me join in. Pamela Thompson sat next to Ben as he poured tea into her cup and handed it to her. Here you go, Mom. She took a sip, smiled with joy, and gently stroked her son's hair. I could get used to this, my son. Belly rolled her eyes at them both, and they all shared a laugh. So, Pam asked, did you apologize? I did, Belly said slowly, but not fast enough. Not fast enough? Ben looked at her. What do you mean? It means I was still upset and confused and didn't know what to think, and he wouldn't say anything. Ben laughed lightly. You're bothered because you couldn't figure out that a guy who messed up one room was going to fix everything? Belly pressed her lips together. I'm upset because he was clearly struggling, and I was too focused on my own feelings to see that he needed support. Sweetheart, her mom said, you were going through a lot. With Dad, a new job, leaving school, and your relationship. I mean, be kind to yourself. We can't be perfect all the time. Belly sighed. I know. But it doesn't change that I was too late. Too late? Ben asked, puzzled. For what? Her mother understood. Too late for John? She looked into her teacup and nodded. Ben realized then. You like him? John? She smiled sadly and nodded again. I like him. A lot. Why haven't you told him? Ben pressed. He was already with someone else. Belly shrugged, feeling helpless. I actually went to his room to talk when I realized my feelings for him. And I heard them together. She smiled, though it was bitter. I ran into 2 sophomores you helped with their project. Zebra, he corrected, even though he knew she was just joking. She laughed lightly and continued. They wanted to know if you could coach them again? He thought about it. Sure. I knew you'd say that, she said, her expression turning serious. What's wrong? She didn't like that his attention had turned elsewhere. You're too giving. She searched for the right words. If I have the time and can help, then why not? John replied. Because you're worth more, Mr. John Smith. I don't understand. Your time shouldn't be taken for granted, you wonderful person. Then she sat up, changing the subject. I need your help, Mr. Smith, she said playfully. After that, we can keep talking. He extended his hand to her. Go ahead. She smiled and shared her thoughts on their mentoring plans. Okay, she said, pausing to enjoy the moment, her hands resting on his chest. They said they want to have weekly meetings like before. There are about 20 of them. He looked her in the eye. Okay. Maybe on Saturdays. She frowned. No, he sighed. Teaching them will help me keep my skills sharp. As long as I get my time with you, Saturdays are fine, she said clearly. But they need to pay for your time. He looked back at her, feeling uneasy about the idea. You want me to ask them to pay? I told them it would be 30 per hour, she explained. Each one. But nothing, she insisted. They spend more on drinks when they go out. Plus, if they don't pay, they won't appreciate it. And they won't appreciate you. He looked at her, thinking about what she said. They agreed, by the way, she added, smiling. I wanted to ask for more, but I knew you wouldn't like that. She started to move, and he smiled back. Okay? She asked. He nodded, still thinking about her point. Okay. Great, she said, her eyes shining with determination. Now, where was I? I love you, he said suddenly. Amaya's eyes widened as she took in his words, a bit surprised. Can you say that again? She asked after a moment. I love you, Amaya Paolini. 10 times, she said, grinning. Now. He laughed and began to repeat it, his honesty clear in every word. Want to go for 10 more? He asked, full of energy. She encouraged him to keep going, her heart filled with happiness. Yes, yes. Amaya's place was quiet when AJ drove home from another good day in Sutton, at least on the project side. Weeks without major problems, no injuries, no bad surprises, no equipment issues, just small delays, and Mike Lyman was feeling tense, waiting for something to go wrong. I'm tempted to cause a little trouble just to cheer him up, Hank joked with the other crew leaders. Then a team from the Historical Society arrived, along with 2 very official county representatives. I knew something would come up to interrupt us, Mike complained. AJ thought Mike was actually a bit relieved that something had finally happened to break their lucky streak. He also felt it was smart to send them away until they had the right clothing and footwear for the site. But he thought Mike might have been a bit too direct about it. One of the ladies in formal shoes somehow crossed the barrier, so AJ felt more understanding toward the foreman than toward the visitors who were upset. Mike's frustrated rant made several workers laugh, giving everyone a brief moment of joy. As soon as he got on the highway, AJ called his brother James. For 10 minutes, he listened to James complain about the local politicians where he was working. Then AJ shared his news and sent a picture. Wow, bro, James whistled. You really landed a good opportunity. How did you manage that? I honestly have no idea, AJ replied. I just helped her team with their project, and I guess she decided to keep me around. James laughed. She's got a point. What do you mean? They both chuckled. AJ then told James more about her, speaking for more than 5 minutes. You're really into her, AJ, James said finally. Then his tone turned serious. Are you sure about this? It feels quick. I know, AJ admitted. I tried to tell her to take it slow. Does she make you happy? Absolutely, like a kid on Christmas morning, AJ said. But what if I still have issues and end up hurting her? James sighed. From what I've heard, I don't think that will happen, AJ. There was a long pause. Finally, James said, Good luck. They chatted for a few more minutes before hanging up. Next, he called his mother, who answered immediately. He heard her speaking in Arabic to someone in the background before breathlessly greeting him. He shared his news, and her response was different from his brother's. I'm glad you figured it out. Oh, I see. Yes, she said with a chuckle. You have to admit, your mom is pretty wise. Yes, you are. More than just wise. He laughed. I'll try a video call so you can meet her. I'll be ready and excited. Rachel Smith paused, and her voice softened. I'm so proud of you, AJ. You've managed to stay true to yourself while being open to healing and love again. But it feels too soon, Mom. AJ said, I'm worried I'll hurt her. The fact that you're more worried about hurting her than being hurt yourself, that tells me she means a lot to you. You just needed time to understand it. I'm scared, Mom. That's okay, AJ, she said gently. It's normal to feel scared. AJ smiled as he pulled into the Bed and Breakfast's driveway. Thank you, Mom. I love you. I love you too, Mom. He finished the call after taking a few moments to say goodbye and got out of the car, stretching. He looked at Amaya's face, feeling it was both strange and natural that he saw it that way, and he smiled. He had told her that he loved her, and she kept asking him to say it again and again. His heart raced as he remembered the special times they shared. He was amazed that he could say it. He was amazed that it was true. Somehow, that lovely young woman had lifted the weight from his shoulders. Over the next few weeks, Amaya stopped pretending she lived anywhere but room 103 at Millie and Milton's Bed and Breakfast. She even started doing his laundry along with hers, ignoring his protests. She only went to her apartment to get her mail, swap clothes, take a break between classes, or use the study room with Talana for their project for Ambassador Vintner. John found it funny that she had more clothes in his room than he did, especially since she rarely wore much around him. To her delight, his feelings for her showed no signs of fading, Despite everything they had shared, his eyes never lost that look of amazement when he saw her, so she did everything she could to strengthen that bond. She also worked to spark his interest, enjoying his quiet smiles and gentle expressions of happiness. She loved it, and she loved him, and to her great joy, he loved her back. He introduced her to his brother James, who needed to borrow a satellite modem so they could video call from the remote village where he was working. He was thinner than his younger brother, she noticed, with a full beard, but the resemblance was clear. He made her blush when he did a double take and called her beautiful. "So I heard you called him names when you first met," James asked, raising an eyebrow. Her mouth dropped open and she glared at John. "I can't believe you told him that." James waved his hands. "I was just going to say you've got good taste. I've been telling him that for years." "How dare you, Mr. James Smith?" She turned her playful glare on James, shaking her fist at the screen. "That's my man you're talking about. Say that again, and I might have to find you." The laughter that followed was warm, and she saw James give a meaningful nod to his brother just before the call ended, which made her heart swell. "He liked you," John said as he hugged her close. "I liked him too," she replied, snuggling in. Her palms were sweaty, her heart racing as John sat her in front of the screen the next night so she could meet his mother. The woman who appeared had gentle features, quite different from her son's, though they both shared her eyebrows. She wore an abaya, her silver-streaked dark hair flowing down her shoulders as she sat outside under the early morning sky. "Ah," Rachel Smith said, a warm smile spreading across her face. "So you're the one keeping my boy from coming home." "Mom," John protested. "Hush you," Rachel said, her eyes fixed on Amaya. "Let me look at her properly." James said he was feeling jealous. Amaya felt her face get warm under the older woman's gaze, but she kept looking at Rachel. "James is right. You're even more beautiful than I thought," Rachel finally said. "But that's not the most important thing. What matters is what I see in your eyes when you look at my son." "I love him," Amaya said honestly. Rachel's smile was bright. "Oh, we're going to get along just fine, dear." The call went on for another half hour, with both women playfully teasing and increasingly annoyed John, while Amaya asked Rachel more about him. By the time they said goodbye, Amaya felt completely at ease. As the call ended, she noticed a meaningful nod between Rachel and John, and he responded with a nod and a slight smile. "She loved you," John said without needing to. He had his arms around her as she looked up at him with teary eyes. He smiled and gently wiped away a tear. "I love you." She quickly changed after that. That night was special, reminding her of the time he shared his past and how he came to be in Camberley. He had been genuine and quite serious, opening up about his feelings. She had treasured every moment. This time the passion came from her, and soon he matched her enthusiasm. He held her close, enjoying the bond they shared as she opened her heart to him. It was already near noon on that Saturday after meeting his mother when she finally chose to get dressed. She playfully pouted and sulked, which made him laugh. He loved helping her dress. It was a fun moment for both of them. But she paused at putting on certain clothes. She raised an eyebrow. "Ever heard of free use?" She laughed at the surprise on his face, then kissed him softly and took his hand to make her point. His class at the Flavor Bomb started at 1 p.m. Someone had even set up a portable projector for him to use with his new laptop. Cindy happily hosted the session since everyone brought a snack, especially the Bomb's famous milkshakes. Talana, Rolly, and Leanne were already in a far corner working on their group project. They greeted him with big smiles. Joran arrived and gave him a fist bump after a quick, shy hug from Talana. Amaya kissed him and wished him good luck before heading to her team, knowing her mind would be a mix of her work and thoughts of him. 19 people showed up and paid for the hour, all thanks to her planning. He was surprised by the turnout, expecting no more than 5, which made Amaya a bit nervous. But when the clock struck 1, any worries she had about his ability to speak vanished within minutes of him starting. The doubt had been his, not hers. "He's really," Leanne said, leaning in and whispering, "really good." The session ended at 2:47 p.m. and everyone applauded. Even better, more than a dozen chose to stay for an extra 45 minutes. Leanne felt a special joy as she transferred over $1,000 into his account. She noticed many women, including Cindy, admiring him, which made her feel a twinge of jealousy. The idea of another woman taken by him knotted her stomach. How is he making me feel this way? She wondered. Surprisingly, the team finished most of their work, leaving the last part and report for Rowley. With no plans for the day, John took her to a late lunch. Then they danced in the park to a surprise performance by a local jazz band. They shared a bowl of ice-cold berries while watching the sunset, playfully making a mess around her lips. Next, they went to a school theater to see an amateur play, enjoying a fun swing dancing version of The King and I set in 1920s Chicago. Leanne had a great time, singing along with the catchy songs and laughing at the performers' silly mistakes. Even better was John's company. The way he held her hand, kissed her fingers and wrist, and shared teasing glances brought her a lot of joy. He jokingly nudged her to pay attention to the show when she shot him a playful look. Through it all, she followed the story unfolding on stage, cheering happily when the curtain came down. "Well?" John asked with a smile. "What did you think of the show?" "You're," she said, "so silly, Mr. Smith." Then she leaned in closer. "Take me home, now." During the performance, she had taken off her outer layer of clothing. Thankfully, he had planned ahead. He had already ordered pizza from Gianni's, and they picked it up along with 2 bottles of non-alcoholic wine before heading back to the bed and breakfast. When they entered the room, he helped her with her dress, gently guiding her to stay still while he unbuttoned it. He focused on her, offering warm words that made the moment feel special. There was a deep bond as they shared quiet moments together, filled with understanding and care. They enjoyed the cold pizza from Gianni's, which was still delicious. She sat next to him while they ate, feeling relaxed and happy in their shared moment. After they finished, they showed their care for each other in a soft way, allowing things to happen slowly. She felt a special bond and was captivated by their closeness. He shared kind words, ending a lovely day with heartfelt feelings. She was at a loss for words, feeling overwhelmed as he wrapped his arms around her, making sure she felt comfortable. She truly didn't want to leave. "I'm really jealous," Talana had told her earlier that day. "You're so lucky," Leanne had whispered, making sure Rowley didn't hear. As she finally fell asleep, wrapped in his presence, she felt tired but deeply happy, filled with overwhelming joy. Belly found Amaya waiting for her on the steps. It felt safer to run together, 2 women instead of 1, especially in the early morning. Their arrangement worked, even if it felt a bit odd. It started shortly after Amaya had shared her feelings for John. Most of the time, they ran in comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Belly's often had a bittersweet tone as she glanced at Amaya, who always seemed cheerful, likely thinking about John. But not always. She was grateful for Amaya, especially after the gathering for her father when she realized Amaya sometimes joined him for evening walks when her mother needed a break. This morning felt different. Amaya seemed to be glowing, and Belly could feel the excitement bubbling inside her. "I met his mother," Amaya said as they began to warm up. Belly raised an eyebrow, curious despite herself. "On a video call," Amaya added. "She's a private tutor in Qatar. She's really lovely and funny." Belly nodded, keeping her expression calm as Amaya described the charming woman and John's warm, playful reactions during their talk. "He told me she loves me," Amaya said, pausing with a big smile. Belly felt a familiar pang in her heart, remembering how it felt when John had shown her affection. The longing brought a hint of guilt, as she realized that even while caring for Amaya, she wished things were different. Especially when John helped her and Ben set up for their father's therapy sessions, arriving uninvited but being welcomed. His eagerness to help created a little gym in the dining area. Initially hesitant, she found herself chatting with him about her difficulties with her students. His funny ideas about making lessons more exciting brought laughter. On the second day, he made tea and coffee for everyone, and she was surprised by how well he did it, perfectly balanced. "So is this how you like it?" he asked with a raised eyebrow. "I noticed that yesterday." She shared a look with her mother, almost asking for permission, and Pam shook her head, looking a bit sad. If she didn't know better, she would think he was trying to be unkind, coming around to make her feel even more distant from him and her feelings. Those last 2 days had really made her feel more out of balance. Seeing him and Amaya together at the bed-and breakfast was hard. The way he looked at her, how his hands rested comfortably on her waist, and how she leaned into him, made it clear they had a close emotional bond. Amaya was so happy that Belly couldn't be upset at her for wanting to show it, but it still hurt, and the words slipped out before she could catch them. Amaya, can you hold back a bit? Amaya stopped speaking for a moment. I'm not being thoughtless, am I? She asked quietly. No, it's just your happiness, Belly responded, surprising herself. I thought I would be over this by now, but seeing you two together. You meeting his mother. It reminds me that I didn't realize how special he was until it was too late. It hurts. She couldn't even imagine the place she found herself in before. They continued running in silence for a moment until Amaya spoke softly. I'll try to be more mindful of... Don't, Belly cut in. You shouldn't have to hide your joy. I just need more time than I thought to get past this. After a little while, Belly sighed. Let's talk about something else. No relationships. Amaya laughed. What about the weather? Belly rolled her eyes. They enjoyed a laugh together as they finished their run, feeling a shift between them. It wasn't quite friendship yet, but it was the start of something. As they said goodbye after stretching, Belly felt a mix of what could have been and a strange relief at sharing her struggles and breaking down the walls she had built between them. Same time tomorrow? She asked Amaya. Amaya's smile was bright and real. Yes, I'll be here. Belly knew she had been keeping Amaya at a distance, holding on to a small hope that maybe her chance would come. Maybe being friends with her was the first step to truly moving on, she thought as she walked to the cottage. Besides the more frequent checks by the Historical Society to make sure garrison builders were keeping the buildings as they should be, Murphy stayed away from the Apex Regal project on Sutton Crescent. Still surprised by his good luck, Mike Lyman told Bill Garrison that furniture delivery could start soon after work on House 3 finished. It became clear that the increased visits from the Historical Society were not due to Murphy, but rather just coincidence. Every week, Greta Keene, who AJ thought had upset the foreman by wearing the wrong shoes on site, began to show up. Realizing her mistake, she started coming with her own hard hat and proper work boots. At first, she had another society staff member and county inspectors with her. Then she began coming alone, and it seemed her inspection of the project was almost done. Now she seemed interested in getting a better look at the foreman. Somehow, his warning about safety had made an impression on her. AJ noticed that Mike no longer frowned or complained about Murphy when the lady from the Historical Society stopped by. One day, at the end of work, as AJ, Randall, and 2 others were checking plans for House 2, where the previous owners had added extra rooms, Greta came back. She had changed into work-friendly clothing and looked sharp as she walked past them to Mike's office, carrying a picnic basket. The group quickly broke up, giving her the privacy she needed with their boss, a look of both shyness and confidence on her face. AJ guessed Greta achieved her aim when Mike called in sick the next morning and did not show up until nearly noon, wearing a vague smile and no explanation. I haven't seen him look that way in a long time, Randall said a few days later. Greta visited 3 times that week with lunch for Mike to share in his office, showing that she was interested in more than just the project. To Mike's surprise, she even showed a sign of affection before she left, prompting Randall's comment. AJ also had a moment of surprise at work. Hey, John? Yes? You have a visitor in Mike's office? Okay, AJ replied, curious about who it could be before getting back to work. I'll be there in a minute. He finished labeling before heading to the foreman's office. Then he noticed a small white hatchback and saw some of the guys looking at him. He shook his head in acceptance as he walked past them. Amaya was in jeans and a tank top, sitting across from Mike and next to Greta Keene. When she saw him, she stood up and greeted him warmly, not minding the other people around. Hello, my love, she said, as if they hadn't just seen each other hours ago. Hey, he replied, smiling back at her, though he felt a bit shy. What are you doing here? The young lady says it's her birthday tomorrow and she wants to spend time with you, Mike said, sounding amused. And the day after, too. He looked at Amaya. You came all the way here to ask my boss for 2 days off? Amaya met his gaze confidently, a smile on her face. Yes, Mr. Smith. Mike shrugged. Well, he already asked to leave early tomorrow and come in late on Friday. Now I see why. Amaya, still by his side, happily thanked him again. I think her idea is much better, Greta said with a grin. Mike sighed. How far behind would that put you? I can catch up by working extra hours tonight and on Monday, AJ said after thinking for a bit, knowing that Amaya had charmed Mike and Greta, and he would get his 2 days off. Minutes later, they were outside of Mike's office, and she said goodbye to him with a cheerful smile. After handing him a packed lunch, she got into her car and drove off, looking pleased. As he walked back to House 2, the men around him looked at him with a mix of envy and respect, giving him nods. Randall responded to the news with his usual serious tone. We can slow down some. We're ahead of schedule. They had a plan for his absence. Randall just needed to put it into action. Was that really your girlfriend? One of the apprentices asked, looking at him in awe. AJ paused. Even Randall was looking at him expectantly. Sighing, he nodded. Yeah? He found it hard to believe himself. An hour later, things got even more puzzling when he saw Greta Keene sitting next to him as he ate the pasta dish Amaya had made for him. I have something to share, she told him. What is it? I wasn't sure at first if I wanted you or Mike, she said. She laughed at his surprised face. Don't look so shocked. You're a very handsome man, John Smith. How is this happening to me? He thought again. When he got back to room 103, he was greeted by a surprising sight. Amaya was typing on her laptop and turned to him with a bright smile. She closed her computer and playfully interacted with him before taking him to the bathroom. I thought we're celebrating your birthday, he said as she playfully splashed water on him. You're my gift, Amaya said, smiling. Right now, all I want is to be with you, Mr. Smith. Smith. She had his full attention when the alarm on his phone beeped, signaling the start of her birthday. Happy birthday, Amaya Paolini, AJ said to the lovely young woman in his arms. She smiled back. Thank you, Mr. Smith. She gave him a playful smile, hinting for him to stop. I want to enjoy our time together now. Just relax. As she promised, they shared a joyful moment, filled with laughter and smiles. AJ loved seeing her happy as they moved together, enjoying their special bond. He held on for as long as he could, fully in the moment. Then she excitedly shared that she had the next day off and that Friday would just be a light review. So you're not sending me away today or tomorrow? Capisce, mi amor? Finally, he agreed. It was her birthday, after all. Si, capisce, cuore mio. Her happiness at his attempt to speak Italian made her beam, and she kissed him again, clearly pleased. AJ watched as Amaya's face lit up when they arrived at La Casa Azul, where her study group was waiting. Talana rushed to hug her with a joyful squeal. Amaya squeezed his arm when she saw Belly, who was standing off to the side but smiling warmly. The Thompson family's card was leaning against a small wrapped gift on the table. You did this? She asked, her eyes sparkling. He shrugged. I just started it. Talana helped. More hugs came as Rolly and Joran joined them, and soft music played in the background. 3 other girls from her apartment building were also there. Cards from the Frankel boys were handed over. Deborah's gift was her special gyro recipe, along with a card signed by her and Fred, which Belly delivered. Amaya burst into laughter when she opened her team's gift, a certificate for the flavor bomb, with "For study fuel" written on the envelope. And some snacks for your man while you study, Talana added quietly, making Amaya laugh again. The Thompsons gave her a lovely silver bracelet, and AJ noticed Belly's smile as Amaya put it on right away and hugged her back. Belly video called Ben, who wished Amaya a happy birthday from his work site, and greeted everyone else. Many of the girls brightened at the sight of him. As the evening went on, the delicious smell of grilled meat and chimichurri sauce filled the air. Her study group shared funny stories from school, leading to questions about AJ's experiences from a while back. Joran's stories of their early coding attempts had everyone laughing, including Belly. This led to a story about AJ deciding to help them with their assignment. It took him just 3 minutes to see why the program kept crashing, Joran said, He saved us so much time. Leanne smiled. Amaya quickly developed feelings for him right then and there. Not just her, Joran said softly, wincing as if he had been hurt. AJ noticed Talana and Leanne looking at him with disapproving expressions. Amaya simply smiled at Leanne's remark, not trying to hide her feelings. AJ let out a long, tired sigh at their behavior. She was always reaching out to him, a gentle squeeze of his hand, a swift glance, or resting her head on his shoulder for a moment. When the music changed to something more upbeat, Amaya's face lit up, and she pulled him towards the dance floor, laughing a bit at his uncertainty. "Don't worry," she whispered, guiding his hands. "Just follow my lead." With grace and confidence, she moved, showing him the dance steps with ease, enjoying the moment as she taught him the basics, just as her Argentine mother would. As the music slowed for a tango, she moved in closer. "This is lovely, Mr. Smith," she said with a smile. He smiled back, noticing the warmth in her eyes and the happiness on her face as they danced together, the laughter around them blending with the music. The cake was layered with crisp pastry and sweet dulce de leche, topped with a fluffy meringue. Amaya's eyes widened when she saw it, clearly impressed. "How did you know?" she asked quietly. AJ shrugged. It had taken some effort, but with Gianni's help, he had found an older Argentine woman who could make a traditional cake for her birthday. "Make a wish," Talana encouraged as they lit a single candle. Amaya met his gaze briefly before leaning forward to blow it out. She pulled him back to the dance floor again for another slow song. "Excuse me?" a voice said, tapping on AJ's shoulder. "May I join in?" Amaya was surprised. AJ turned to see Tyler Dane, often described in magazines as one of the most charming men in the business, who lived nearby. AJ felt uneasy, recalling a similar moment a few months ago. Tyler's request had been aimed at him, but it was clear he wanted to dance with the woman in his arms. AJ braced himself for the disappointment of Amaya stepping away to take Tyler's hand. "I'm sorry, Mr. Dane," Amaya said instead, smiling kindly. "I'm only dancing with him." Dane looked taken aback for a moment, just like AJ felt. "Call me Tyler," he replied, trying to regain his composure with a broader smile, briefly glancing at AJ. "And I'm sure your friend here," he glanced at her hand, "wouldn't mind." Dane grinned at AJ. "Just one dance, and I'll give her back to you." "The lady is not mine to give or take," AJ said softly, raising an eyebrow. "You can't take her or hand her back to me." To his surprise, he felt Amaya's arms tighten around him. Dane's smile remained. "Come on, man. Just look at her." "She's beautiful," he said, looking at Amaya. "Just one dance, and I can help you out so much." "I don't want to be rude, Mr. Dane," Amaya replied firmly, her smile fading. "But please leave us in peace." He seemed surprised, glancing around at the people watching. A moment of annoyance crossed his face before he put on a polite smile again. "I'm sorry. Enjoy your evening." "You too," Amaya said, turning back to AJ, dismissing Tyler Dane even as he walked away. AJ held her close as they swayed to the music, reminding them of another dance floor and another choice they had to make. "Look at me, my love," Amaya said after a moment. "I love you. You have my heart and I am yours. Always. Never forget that. Got it?" "Yes, my heart," AJ replied softly. She laughed. "Your accent is funny." He smiled back. "I'll get better." "No," Amaya said, mimicking him. "I want it to sound just like that for the rest of my life." While she went to the restroom with the other girls to talk about what just happened with Tyler Dane, who was known for causing problems in relationships, Belly moved closer to him. "Did she really say no to Tyler Dane?" Belly asked. He was still processing that. "Yeah." "Wow," she said, glancing toward where Dane had gone, now with another woman next to him. He had noticed her with another man earlier and hoped that man wasn't her husband. "She makes you happy, doesn't she?" she asked. Hearing something deeper in Belly's voice, he answered honestly, "Yes, she does." She helped you feel better." It wasn't a question, but he replied, "Yes, she did." "I'm really happy for you," she said sincerely. He smiled at her. "Thank you. But I wish," Belly said softly, reaching out to hold his hand for a moment. "I wish I'd known how much you were hurting. I would have wanted to help you." Belly left just as Amaya returned, saying it was a school night and giving her a hug while wishing her a happy birthday again. Not long after, Amaya danced with him one last time before asking him to take her home. Everyone seemed to catch her quiet request, and soon they were gathering their things, sharing hugs, goodbyes, and happy birthday wishes for Amaya. Before they left, Amaya leaned against him and thanked him with tears in her eyes. "This was so wonderful." "Thank you." He smiled. "You're very welcome, Miss Paolini." He helped her carry her cards, balloons, and leftover dessert to the car. He opened her door and let her in like a true gentleman. Then he walked around to the driver's seat as she watched him closely. She took his hand and rested it gently on her leg as they drove, taking the quickest route that led them past her apartment building. "That's a bit risky, Miss Paolini," he said with a light tone. "You started it, Mr. Smith," she responded playfully. He noticed the dark side street next to the administration building that she was pointing to. It seemed even darker, he thought as he drove in. She leaned closer as he parked the car and made more room in his seat. She looked beautiful, and he found it hard to resist her charm. They shared a fun moment filled with smiles and laughter. Suddenly, a loud knock on the window surprised them. A security guard appeared, and they quickly straightened up. "You two need to move this somewhere else," the guard said, glancing away politely. "I'm sorry," AJ replied. "Just get a room," the guard said with a slight smile, still looking away. "I can't believe I'm actually saying that." AJ felt Amaya shake beside him, unsure of what to do. The guard quickly looked at him. "I'm stepping back so the lady can get ready, but I have to stay here until you leave." AJ nodded in thanks. "Thank you." The guard stepped away, turning his back for extra caution. "It's okay now," he whispered. Amaya sat up and he noticed her soft laughter. "Oh my gosh," she giggled. "Do you think he saw—" "He saw what?" AJ teased. She playfully tapped his shoulder, making a funny face. That was not up for discussion. She hadn't wanted to leave their cozy spot in the evening, but he had insisted they needed to make their dinner reservation. Even though she would have loved to stay in, she had a great time. He could not know what the cake, just like the one her mother made for her every birthday until she went to college, had meant to her. Her wish as she blew out the candle had been to grow old with him. Later, when Tyler Dane had asked her to dance, she had not just said no, she had told him to leave her alone. She couldn't believe it herself, and Kylie, Sienna, and Leanne didn't waste any time in expressing their surprise when they followed her into the bathroom. "I can't believe you just turned down Tyler Dane," Leanne said, shocked. "He's so handsome," Kylie exclaimed. "I could scream! And you said no?" She shrugged. "Yeah." "Did he have bad breath or something?" Sienna asked. She smiled, finding it funny. "No." "Then why?" Kylie pressed. "It was just a dance, right? And it's your birthday. He's been popular for 5 years, and your guy couldn't let you have a moment." Amaya shook her head. "He didn't stop me. In fact, it was the other way around." She remembered how his arms had relaxed around her, as if he had, even without knowing it, thought she would choose the very handsome movie star. "Then why?" "Because I only wanted to dance with my guy," Amaya explained. "But it was just one dance," Sienna argued. "For the rest of your life, you could say you danced with Tyler Dane." Amaya looked at her friend. "I'd pick a moment with John Smith over any time with Tyler Dane." "Wow!" Kylie said, surprised. "You really like this guy." "I love him," Amaya replied. "More than I ever thought I could love someone. I want to spend my life with him." Everyone stared at her. "But—" Sienna started. "Just stop," Amaya said with a smile that told them the topic was done. He had been chatting with Belly while they were in the restroom, which made her feel a bit anxious. But Belly's warm smile as she said goodbye was genuine. Then he took her in his arms for another dance, swaying slowly as he looked into her eyes and gently moved a stray hair from her face. In that moment, Amaya felt a deep connection, like a new step had been taken in their bond. "I love you, Amaya Paolini," he said softly. "Take me home," she replied. She meant room 103. but they never made it there. She looked up at him from the bed as he stood beside her, appearing deep in thought. They had shared a special moment together. The time was getting late, with checkout at noon, and it was already past 11 when he went to get her gypsy top and bra from the car. As she got ready for the shower, still wearing her new jewelry, she caught his attention again with the sight of her. She lay back, closing her eyes and smiling, enjoying their quiet time together. Even though they knew they were short on time, he took his time, enjoying the moment. They shared playful touches and laughter, their connection feeling stronger. She felt delightful warmth as they moved in sync, letting their happiness flow together. They shared a sweet moment, feeling close as time slipped away. When they checked out of the Bronin Stedman Hotel, the clock had just passed 12:13, and her hair was still damp from their quick shower, but thankfully, they were not charged extra. "Where are we going?" she asked after he took a turn away from Millie and Milton's. He shrugged. "Not sure. Let's just have an adventure." "I need to change clothes," she said with a smile. "We'll stop and buy some then." "So I really need them," she joked. He laughed, giving her a playful glance. "Now you've got me thinking about making sure you're happy, Miss Paolini." She smiled as they continued on their journey. Work was going well at the Apex Regal on Sutton Crescent. The start of work on House 1 felt important. Everyone showed up early, including Bill Garrison, who greeted everyone warmly and called them miracle workers. Then Mike gave the signal, and the construction teams began to get to work. Garrison had called in the interior designers and movers, who started changing the completed buildings, mainly House 5, which would serve as the reception and lobby area. Carpets were laid down, wooden floors were installed, and lights and bathroom fixtures were put in place. Cabinets, desks, and beds were delivered and set up. Pictures were hung on the walls, and finishing touches were added to the paint, with Greta Keane sharing her thoughts to keep everyone satisfied. To Mike Lyman's surprise, the work moved quickly, and Murphy did not show up. However, Mike's concerns had faded, even while Bill Garrison crossed himself whenever anyone mentioned how smoothly things were going, causing his crew to laugh, though many secretly followed their own traditions. AJ thought that Greta's growing affection for the foreman contributed to Mike's calm demeanor. Rumor had it that she had already met his children, and the friendly looks she gave him showed that the meeting had gone well. "Done?" Mike asked when AJ and Randall entered his office. Greta had left after her usual lunch with her new friend, but her perfume still lingered. "Yep," Randall replied, looking pleased. AJ had finished connecting the last network point in House 1 that afternoon, and they spent the rest of the day testing each connection, power outlet, and system. This was similar to what they had done in other houses. The only difference was that this was the last one. "Full testing of the entire system starts tomorrow," AJ said. They would check the wireless network and every connection, running scenarios for any potential issues like power outages, equipment failures, or security problems. After that, the teams would come in to install the servers, phones, cameras, and door systems. Most of the equipment was ready, with contractors scheduled to arrive once testing was finished. "And then," Mike asked. "Then we train the hotel's maintenance and IT staff," Randall explained. "We'll guide them through the documentation and show them how everything works together. This should take about a week." Mike nodded, looking at the project timeline on his wall. "You're ahead of schedule." "Good equipment, good team," Randall said simply. "And no problems." "I still can't believe it." Mike shook his head. Then he stood up and went to the small fridge beside his desk, bringing out 3 cans of soda, as no alcohol was allowed on his site. "Well done, gentlemen." They tapped their cans together. The flavor bomb was filled with laptops and students, all focused on their screens and on him. Cindy had set up some tables in a classroom style, managing to fit more than 20 laptops in the space. AJ, inspired by Uncle Gary, made sure the cables were organized. Even with so many computers, the cables on the floor looked neat. At first, some people rolled their eyes, but then they smiled when AJ pointed out that no one had tripped. "Remember," he said, "the language is just a tool. Think about what you want to accomplish, then figure out how to make the computer do it." He automatically looked for Amaya, whose supportive gaze showed she believed in him. he still couldn't figure out why she cared for him so much. Some nights he woke up to find her sleeping next to him, and he was often surprised that she was real, that she made his heart feel lighter. Because of her push to value his time, he had earned over $5,000 from these sessions. The students were eager to pay, especially since word had spread about his skill in explaining tricky ideas. Today, there were 27 students, the biggest group yet, likely because finals were next week. Thoughts of Amaya popped into his head, and he quickly redirected his focus to the group as they asked questions while he discussed common issues and tricky parts. He moved around, checking people's code, pointing out mistakes, and asking questions to check their understanding. The 2 hours flew by, and he ended by answering last-minute questions about tricky topics. He felt a bit shy when the applause broke out at the end, especially when Cindy cheered. The requests for milkshakes, burgers, and drinks kept coming. She looked tired but very happy. As he was packing up his laptop, a woman approached him, looking a bit unsure but determined. Behind her were 2 tall teenage boys, both wearing headphones and looking down, avoiding eye contact in a way he had seen before. "Sir," she said, "I'm sorry to bother you, but Cindy said you help with coding issues?" The boys fidgeted. One kept rubbing his hands together. "It depends," AJ replied carefully. "What seems to be the problem?" He had noticed them sitting in the corner, where Amaya and her friends had been. "They created something on their computers," she said, pointing to the boys, and AJ noticed the matching laptop bags they both had. "I don't fully understand what it is, but they are stuck and it's making them really upset." "I don't get it, but Cindy thought you could help," AJ said. AJ noticed the earphones, the nervous movements, and the boy looking away. It reminded him of a boy who lived next to his Uncle Gary. His Aunt Petra had taken care of the boy while his mom worked. Patrick was really good with wind instruments, and during the year they lived nearby, he became quite popular for his music. Petra was proud to have bought him his first real flute. "Can they talk?" he asked softly. "Yes," the woman answered, looking hopeful. "Let's go back and chat with them." The woman smiled gratefully, and he followed them back to their seats. "Are you there?" The woman smiled wearily, probably from explaining before. A petite Asian woman caring for 2 boys who were much taller than her would surely attract attention. "I'm their aunt. I live with them and their mom. She's my husband's sister and a nurse." "Okay," AJ said. "I'm John." "I'm Marina." The brothers sat together while AJ sat next to their aunt. She made a small gesture, and they both turned a knob on their headphones without looking up. It was fairly quiet, and AJ could see some of the tension easing in the boys. "Hi," he said to the boys. "I'm John Smith. What are your names?" The boy in red responded without looking up. "I'm Ethan Abrams." The boy in blue, still rubbing his hands, added, "I'm Nathan Abrams." "Nice to meet you," he smiled. "Your Aunt Marina says you made something? What is it?" Nathan glanced at him quickly, then looked away. "A platform," he said softly, "for making and sharing games." Ethan nodded. "But it keeps crashing. The programs get confused when multiple games run. Tightening the rules doesn't help." AJ nodded. "What language are you using?" "AX." AJ recognized it. It was fairly new, and he wasn't an expert. "Can I see it?" There was a long pause. After a moment, Nathan stopped rubbing his hands. They looked at their aunt, who smiled and nodded encouragingly. Ethan pulled out his laptop and started it up, followed by Nathan. The code that appeared on their screens surprised AJ. It was very advanced, but also very neat, well organized with clear comments. He quickly saw they had created a virtual space where users could build, test, and share their games, complete with asset management and a physics engine. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the keyboard. They nodded, and he began scrolling through their work, increasingly impressed. "Look," Nathan said, pointing to a specific block of code. "The operations aren't working fast enough when several games are running together." His brother nodded quickly. "We need better conditions. More accurate ones." AJ frowned a bit. Their setup was well-written, clear, logical, and precise. He started to look over the execution paths. "This is..." Interesting, he said slowly when he discovered something. Have you thought about how the tasks are shared? We divide them up, Nathan replied. Each game runs on its own thread. But they still need to connect with each other, his brother added, a hint of frustration in his voice. We just need to make the conditions more specific. The conditions need to be more accurate, Nathan said firmly. The branching logic isn't detailed enough. We just need to improve the conditions, Ethan agreed, his fingers tapping quickly on the table. AJ understood they were not talking to him. Their aunt was observing closely. They've been stuck on this for weeks, she said quietly. It's all they discuss at home. Their approach made sense, so they were focused on it. It should work in a straightforward environment. But the system they built was much more complicated, and their current method was reaching a limit they couldn't see. He couldn't see it either. It would take a different way of thinking, and he wouldn't have time to explore it for a while. A month, he decided. I want to help you both with this, he said carefully. But I need a month to finish my current projects before we can work together. As he feared, he saw them tense up as their instinct kicked in against any changes. Marina noticed too and tried to hide her disappointment. So why don't you, he continued quickly, focus on other parts of the platform for now, like the user interface and asset management system? We still need to add them into the main processing. It would be better to get them ready now. Nathan stopped fidgeting as he heard other parts. The asset manager really does need work, he said thoughtfully. And we should improve the UI layout engine, Ethan added, pausing his tapping. Marina gave him a grateful look. Maybe the animation engine could use some attention too, he offered, watching their faces. And the resource handling? Both boys nodded, and right away they each opened a planner app he'd never seen before and started typing, organizing their tasks. 1 month from today is the 14th, Nathan declared suddenly. Yes, Ethan agreed. We will see you here at 2:15 p.m. Please give your email address for reminders and access to our code repository. AJ chuckled and wrote down the email, along with his phone number, then passed the paper over. The twins glanced at it, took note of the information, and moved on. AJ's phone buzzed with incoming emails. They didn't pay him any more attention after that. However, Marina smiled and nodded at him. He turned to the boys, who were busy focusing on their plans, and smiled back. Congratulations, Mr. Smith, Amaya said, grinning at him after he had given his work about the Apex Regal project to Randall and Mike. Congratulations, Miss Paolini, he replied warmly. She stepped closer, and his hand rested on her waist. She had just finished her last meeting with her team for the term, and they had wrapped up their final project and handed it in. He had watched her diligently check her work, making calls to Talana and Rowley for help with their assignments. He noticed how she typed quickly to produce essays and reviewed statistics, frowning in focus as she tackled some tricky theories. Usually, she dressed casually, but he admired her determination even during their long hours together. Instead of distractions, he made her coffee and tea and searched for snacks in the kitchen. Julia will be upset with you, Amaya said one evening, smiling as she hugged him tightly. Look at what I'm doing for you, cuore mio, John joked, hands on her waist. Braving Julia's disapproval? The kitchen of the bed and breakfast was carefully watched by the early-rising grandmother from Argentina, who had made Amia's special dessert. John had recommended her to Pam, and she had been hired right after cooking an omelet for Pam and Deborah to try. Since it was late, and Julia, who actually liked John, was back at her place, John went into the kitchen to prepare toast, soup, and tuna melts, even finding a piece of cake for her. Amaya thought he deserved extra praise, or maybe she just needed a little help to study better. She had always been a good student, but ever since John entered her life, her classes had become clearer and easier to understand. It made her smile to think about it. Love and friendship were making her smarter. In the last 2 weeks before the term ended, he was busy getting ready for a visit with Apex Regal's managers. It had been a busy but wonderful time of work and connection. She had one last thing to ask. So when will you finish the ambassador's project? Instead of answering, she kissed him lightly, and they both smiled as they paused for a moment. Let's chat later, she said with a playful tone, moving a bit closer. Later, their conversation flowed easily. So, about Vintner's project? She wants us to present it at the faculty dinner. The UN ambassador and the vice chairman of the International Development Corporation will be there. That's amazing, John said, beaming at her. You and Talana will impress everyone. I'm so nervous, she admitted. John shook his head. Don't worry. You'll do great. But, he smiled, giving her confidence. But, she started again. He encouraged her to keep going. I've never. She laughed softly, realizing her fears were not needed. Okay, I will be good. You'll be fantastic, he replied, still supportive. The dinner was 2 days after the visit at Apex Regal, and of course he was her guest. I'm really worried about Talana, Amaya said. John shook his head. She'll be fine too. But how do I help her? Amaya frowned. She gets so nervous, and when we practiced she was shaking. Keep going. Keep encouraging her until she believes in herself. I've tried that, but she's still anxious. Can I help? She thought for a moment. How do you plan to boost Talana's confidence? He raised an eyebrow. Boost? She smiled shyly. That's what you do for me. Every time I feel stronger. He looked at her with admiration. That's one of the nicest things anyone has said to me. She smiled warmly at him, feeling a connection. I worry that my friends might notice how happy you make me and want you for themselves. Then he was there for her, and she felt the joy of the moment between them, enjoying being close. Would it help? John asked after a thoughtful moment. If I called someone who knows about giving presentations to guide you? She raised an eyebrow, curious. Who? James, John replied. Doctors worldwide gets a lot of help from the IDC. She smiled gratefully. You're very clever, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Miss Paolini. He paused, giving her his full attention. I'll get in touch with him. Let's concentrate on what we can share right now, Amaya said, ready to enjoy the moment with him. She loved seeing how he reacted to her moves and how happy it made him. He held on tightly, and she felt strong as he became lost in the experience. AJ walked behind Mike Lyman as Bill Garrison showed Apex Regal's chief operating officer and her team around the new hotel. Local officials, the press, and members of the Historical Society looked on as the old buildings transformed. Margaret Chen seemed impressed as Bill took her through the site, answering her questions about the technical details and preservation efforts, showcasing her knowledge of architecture and construction. Mike Lyman looked relaxed, sharing a laugh with the chairman of the Historical Society, who admired the blend of modern features and the building's Victorian style. AJ noticed how Greta Keane glanced at the foreman during moments when Mike seemed not to notice. It was clear that Greta kept her connection with Mike a secret, easing any tension with her team. Either way, Mike Lyman clearly had feelings for her, and she seemed just as interested in him. The Sutton deputy mayor discussed the teamwork between businesses, government, urban renewal, and historic preservation. AJ only partially listened, as he was focused on information displayed on his tablet. Randall poked him to point out that Bill mentioned his name while explaining the advanced networking setup they had created. For the cruise, the real walkthrough had happened with Apex Regal's quality assurance and technical teams over the previous 3 days, carefully inspecting the property. Any small issues found were quickly resolved, and Mike celebrated with soda. Various officials took their turns speaking, eager to associate themselves with the project and the promise of local jobs and economic growth. The Historical Society chairman stressed the importance of the buildings, saying the renovation enhanced the area's Victorian style. AJ had heard similar stories during chats with Greta in Mike's office. Bill's speech was short, celebrating the project's completion ahead of schedule and within budget. He thanked his foreman, the crews, and Apex Regal for the chance to work on it. He also wisely included thanks to the Historical Society and local government for their help and support. Chen introduced Apex Regal's new mixed model of a hotel and bed and breakfast, with their new property as the main example. She thanked everyone and praised the work she had seen. She repeated that Apex Regal aimed to be a good member of the community, caring for both people and the environment. The signing ceremony was quick and organized, captured on camera and shown on large screens. With applause, Miss Chen signed neatly, followed by Mike and Bill, and then it was done. The Apex Regal on Sutton Crescent was officially finished and ready, so everyone gathered outside in a tent for a celebration. Portable heaters were set up to keep everyone warm. The catering team moved through the crowd, serving snacks and drinks, while buffet tables offered larger dishes. AJ stood with Randall and the drywall and electrical crew, sharing friendly jokes. Wives and girlfriends added bright colors to the usual work clothes and suits. Bianca and Kate, from the painting crew, brought their partners as well. He wasn't surprised that so many brought their loved ones. It was a free dinner and a chance to see where their partners worked, especially at a hotel most wouldn't visit more than once. He smiled when he noticed Mike trying to keep his distance from Greta, though he kept stealing glances at her as she moved around. She wore a lovely wool dress and found reasons to be near him, making it hard for him to stay focused. Then he spotted her. She stood at the entrance looking around, and when their eyes met, she grinned and walked toward him, wearing a fashionable sweater dress and heels that drew attention. "Hello, Miss Paolini," he said as she reached him. She greeted him warmly, seeming comfortable in the crowd. "I thought you were practicing with Talana," AJ said, watching as she stepped back but kept his hand. "We finished early," she replied, looking a bit unsure. "I thought—" He squeezed her hand. "I'm glad you came," AJ said with a genuine smile, even with the attention she was getting. "But your presentation is in 2 days." She pouted, making him want to cheer her up. "I think I've practiced enough. More just makes me more nervous." "What about Talana?" "I think she's going to be fine," Amaya giggled. "I think she likes James." Before AJ could respond, a woman stepped forward and extended her hand to Amaya. "Hi, I'm Sarah, Randall's wife." Amaya smiled and shook her hand. "Hello, I'm Amaya." She pointed to AJ. "He's told me a lot about your husband." Sarah laughed softly. "Well, my husband had something nice to say about you, and he doesn't talk much. But I can see why now." Amaya looked puzzled. I don't—" "He called you, beautiful," Sarah said, copying her husband's deep voice. Amaya turned a little red, and Sarah smiled gently. She took Amaya's hand again. "Come with me. I want to introduce you to the other women, and you can share all about John. I know Randall has talked a lot about him." Amaya played along. "I hope it's all nice things." "Very nice, actually. Now let's go chat." "I'll get you something to eat," AJ said, encouraging her to go. She quickly kissed his cheek before Sarah led her away. He prepared a plate of snacks and brought it to her along with a tall glass of pineapple juice, her favorite. Then he returned to talking and laughing with Lenny and the crew, happy to see her relaxing and connecting with the other women before her big presentation. At first, he had to listen to some teasing and compliments about Amaya's looks, until Lenny jokingly told everyone to back off a little. AJ didn't mind the attention at all. After a while, Amaya stepped away from the group and came over, taking his hand. She led him to a quieter area, wrapped her arms around his neck, and smiled sweetly at him. "I'm not complaining," AJ said, "but what's this for?" "Because I came here for you, and I think I've been a bit out of it," she said with a smile. "And because I care about you." She playfully whispered to him, and then stepped back to continue chatting with the other women, leaving him feeling warm from their moment together. As he walked back, he was approached by Bill, Mike, Randall, and, surprisingly, Jason Frankel. Bill got right to the point. "We'd like to talk to you privately, John." He followed the 3 older men to another corner of the tent, hoping for a good conversation. "First off," Bill began, "thank you for the work you've done here." "I second that," Mike added. Randall nodded in agreement. AJ felt a bit shy. "Thanks, but I don't think I did any more than everyone else here." "Physically, sure," Randall said, "but you played a big part in all the planning and organizing, which was very important." Randall was right. "I need to make sure I keep this wonderful woman." Dylan Robson noticed the young woman in the red sweater dress and black knee-length boots as she picked up her jacket at the coat check. She had caught his eye when he walked into the marquee with Sharon Parker. They both knew they were stepping into challenging territory. As the current COO and likely future CEO of the Rixton Hotel Group, he happened to be in Sutton to finish an acquisition. Still, he knew that being at the handover ceremony for Apex Regal's new property would be seen as bold, and that was exactly what he wanted. He watched the young woman walk confidently across the marquee, and her presence captured the attention of many in the room. She was exceptionally beautiful, and he found himself mesmerized. 3 months ago, he would have eagerly pursued her, confident in his charm and skills. He had a long history of winning over women and was known for his charisma. But that was before he met someone else, the woman who now wore his ring and lived with him in his penthouse. He had decided to pursue her, not knowing how deeply their connection would touch him. She had been a challenge, a mystery he wanted to solve. He chased after her, unused to not getting what he desired, until she finally came to him when emotions were strong, confirming their bond. She didn't leave as he had worried she might. Instead, she chose to be with him, making their relationship stronger. That was when he realized she was truly his. She kept coming back, and he felt victorious. In her resistance, she had captured his heart. So he wouldn't pursue the woman who was drawing attention. Even if he had wanted to, she was his fiancé's best friend, important for winning over his love. But he could still admire her from afar. He could still look. Well, well, well. A familiar voice said, "Is the great Dylan Robson actually watching us?" He turned to Margaret Chen with a playful smile. "Not spying if I'm not sneaking around, right?" She chuckled. "So you came to see the competition? I'm flattered." Suddenly, Sheila, one of the promising attorneys at Rixton Group, gasped loud enough to draw his attention. He looked at her, following her gaze, and his eyes widened. The woman in red was holding hands with a man he recognized, smiling at him as he leaned forward in a friendly way before they walked out together. "He looks like AJ," Sheila whispered. Dylan thought so too. His hair and other features looked different, but they were still very similar. "Is everything okay, Dylan?" Margaret asked. "Who was the guy with the girl in red?" Dylan wondered. "The one who just left?" Margaret looked a bit confused at first. Then her face cleared. She was too observant to have missed the girl. "I don't know his name, but he's from around here. Camberley, I think. He's with the construction team." Dylan and Sheila exchanged glances and reached the same thought. A.J. Smith, who they had last seen leaving the cafe at the Rixton on Hanover Street, was definitely not a construction worker, and he certainly wasn't from Camberley. Margaret looked at them both. "Is something wrong? You both look surprised." "More like seeing someone who looks just like someone else," Dylan said, noticing Sheila nodding in agreement, happy to have her own thought confirmed. He gave a playful smile to his competitor. "Anyway, this place looks nice, but you're not really competition." Margaret rolled her eyes and let out a small laugh. Amaya Paolini and Talana Naswal gave a presentation that discussed international trade and aid policies. They suggested a kinder approach focusing on developing local resources. They received one of the longest standing ovations of the night. At first, the young women seemed nervous and spoke a bit awkwardly, but soon they found their confidence and spoke clearly. AJ smiled when Talana tried a joke, especially enjoying her surprise at the audience's laughter. He sent a message to James, recognizing his brother's role in this. "Nice job," James replied quickly. "How are they doing?" "Really well," AJ replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Both ladies were dressed in professional suits that showed their elegance, catching the attention of many audience members even before their presentation began. They answered questions from Ambassador Vintner, the IDC vice chairman, and some faculty members involved in diplomacy and trade. Once warmed up, they worked well together, finishing each other's sentences. AJ joined the applause as they walked off the stage, their faces showing both relief and pride. AJ saw Ambassador Vintner greet them first backstage, giving each of them a hug. "I knew you would do well," she said, smiling brightly at them. Salif was very impressed. Salif Quatara, the IDC vice chairman, then approached with two of his staff. "Very good work, ladies," he said. "We need to talk more about your suggestions." "Figured out what?" "That I want to spend my life with you." He smiled. "I needed to make sure you'd be with me." Amaya laughed. "Really? Did your mother say that?" "Well, no. That was Randall." She laughed and smiled at him. She became serious when she spoke again. "I know you're curious why I haven't talked to my parents about you." She leaned her forehead against his. It's because I knew that when I tell them about you, they'll understand. They'll see that you've won my heart and that I really care about you." She smiled at him. "I didn't want to share the news over the phone. I wanted to tell them in person that I found you, that my place is with you, my love, forever." She smiled again. "That I plan to spend my life with you." She had a lot to tell her parents back in Marrakech. They had celebrated together, and surprisingly, she had fallen asleep smiling in his arms. She thought she had reached the peak of happiness before, but that was before John Smith's ring was on her finger. She woke up 3 hours later, according to the clock, feeling full of excitement. Belly noticed this as she saw Amaya step down from the bed and breakfast stoop to join her in her stretches. She saw that neither Amia's car nor John's had moved for at least a day, so they were obviously inside, and it was clear what they were up to. If there was ever a picture that showed happy, it would be Amaya's. She seemed to glow with joy, even as her walk was a bit careful. The stretches would help, Belly thought, trying to avoid wondering how John must have made her feel so happy to leave her like this. The young woman was eager to share something. She was practically buzzing with excitement as they started their routine. Belly felt a slight twinge of dread as she realized what her news had to be. She delayed the moment a bit longer. "Tell me before you burst," she finally said. Amaya didn't even pretend to be confused. She just held out her left hand, the small diamond sparkling in the morning light. Belly felt a tightness in her heart, even as happiness for them both spread inside her. Of course he would propose. Of course Amaya would say yes. She had sensed it during the birthday party. "Congratulations," she said softly, and meant it, even as a quiet thought flickered in her mind. She pushed it away. There was no point in thinking of what might have been. Amaya's bright smile dimmed a little. "Are you okay with this?" "Yes," Belly replied firmly, because she truly was, even if it still stung a bit. "He deserves to be happy. You both do." Amaya hugged her then, and Belly hugged her back, feeling warmth for her friend. It was hard not to share in her joy. "When did he ask?" Belly inquired as they began walking up the driveway. "How?" She realized she genuinely wanted to know. "Last night," Amaya shared, still glowing. "We were together after." Amaya felt a flush of warmth. She couldn't help but smile at the mix of shyness and pride on the other woman's face. "He said he was worried about hurting me, and at first I thought he would end things," Amaya admitted. "I was really scared." Belly noticed how much the idea of losing John Smith upset Amaya. She felt a little jealous. She wished she could feel love so openly and without hesitation. Amaya's eyes sparkled. "Then he told me he was more afraid of losing me than trying again." "Trying again?" Belly asked before she could stop herself. Amaya paused, considering her words. "He was married. He is still married. But she has left him." Belly's heart ached for that situation. "It hurts," John had said that morning. She didn't know the details of what had brought him to Camberley, but she sensed his heart was in pieces. They should have started jogging already, but they continued their brisk warm-up walk, as if they both understood without saying it. "He thought I would leave when Tyler Dane asked me to dance, but I didn't," Amaya said proudly. "I chose him." "Yes," Belly replied, recalling how she had stood next to John at La Casa Azul, seeing him watch a lovely young woman who had unknowingly helped him heal. He had looked at Amaya as if she were a dream. "You did." "I will always choose him," Amaya said, staring into the distance with a firm promise. It felt strange to be so happy for someone and yet feel a twinge of envy at the same time. "It's a beautiful ring," Belly said. Amaya laughed. "The silly man said he would get me a bigger one when he could afford it." She smiled and shook her head. "I told him this one is perfect. I would have said yes even if it were made of foil." Belly narrowed her eyes playfully. "But thank goodness it isn't, right?" Amaya let out a playful sigh of relief. "Yes." They both laughed. "So," Belly asked, "Marrakech tomorrow? Are you excited to tell your parents you're engaged?" "Yes." Amaya looked up at the sky. "My mom will wish I had told her the moment I knew he was the one." Belly grinned. "And your dad?" "He'll do the typical Italian father thing and insist John comes to ask him first," Amaya said with a smile, "but he'll be okay with it." "I'm really happy for you," Belly said sincerely. "Good luck with everything." Amaya paused and, to Belly's surprise, pulled her into another hug. "Thank you. That means so much to me, coming from you." "All right," Belly said when they broke apart, feeling unexpected tears in her eyes. "No more sappy stuff. Let's run." AJ held her close at the entrance to the boarding gates, gently brushing a stray strand of hair away from her face. He didn't want to say goodbye. "I have to go," Amaya said softly, but she didn't step back. "I know." She had checked in and spent the last hour by his side in the departure area, playing with her ring and showing him affection. She looked up at him. "I'll call you as soon as I land." He leaned in, enjoying how her arms tightened around him. "I love you, my dear," she whispered. "I love you too." "I love the way you say that," she giggled. "But your accent still needs work." He chuckled and leaned in again, enjoying the closeness. "That's not fair," she said playfully. "What's not fair, Miss Paulini?" "You're making this hard," she replied, looking up at him with a playful pout. "And I can't change it." That was true. Her presence, the way she leaned against him, touched him deeply. She had been so engaging. Their time together that night and the next morning was filled with playful moments. Getting her ready for her flight had been a fun challenge. She thought her ring was all that she needed. The day before was similar. After her run with Belly, she came out of the shower with her hair in a towel. They joked and laughed in front of the mirror, having a great time together. Then she playfully scolded him for making a mess and led him to the bathroom to help tidy up. Later, they found themselves in the cozy confines of the bed, enjoying their playful banter. To his surprise, the connection between them reignited with her teasing and warmth. He carefully adjusted his hold on her, enjoying the way she responded. "You're so beautiful, Miss Paulini," he said softly. "You're amazing." Later, amid their joking, she pretended to be annoyed while he helped her get ready to leave after a much-needed rest. Julia was in the kitchen when they returned with the trays. She spotted the ring right away. "It worked!" she exclaimed, rushing to kiss Amaya on the cheeks and admiring her hand. "It's beautiful." After releasing Amaya's hand, she winked at him. "So, have you both made plans for this new chapter in your lives?" she teased, glancing at the blushing Amaya. AJ grinned and gave a thumbs up, making Julia laugh even more as Amaya playfully nudged him. It had been a lovely day. They walked through the park, enjoying the decorations. They had lunch at Gianni's and stopped for a milkshake at the Flavor Bomb. Cindy was excited when she saw the ring. He discovered a theater group putting on a hip-hop version of The Prince of Thieves in Sutton and drove them there. Throughout the show, he couldn't help but tease her, trying to make her laugh and keep her attention, until she leaned in and whispered that if he kept it up, there would be results. They found a quiet spot in a hotel restroom. A lighthearted challenge led to a close moment filled with laughter and fun. Later, they enjoyed a meal at a Brazilian barbecue restaurant with a dance floor back in Camberley. Amaya noticed the lively energy and soon became fully involved in the excitement. "Smith," she warned, sitting across from him in her pretty outfit. AJ had no trouble keeping his focus on her, and when she stood and took him to the dance floor, he felt a mix of excitement and curiosity. She liked having his attention and drew him closer with her charm. He noticed some men looking and admiring, while women wondered how he caught her eye. What was so special about him that made her seem so drawn to him? They returned to their room, laughter filling the air. The mood was charged as they found a moment alone together. He was thankful for her choice of outfit that day. "Please," she said, her excitement clear. AJ felt a wave of emotions and energy, both of them buzzing in the moment. "Yes!" she exclaimed, her voice bright. Their lips met in a kiss that showed how connected they were. She held him close when he tried to step back. "No, stay!" she whispered. He gazed at her, filled with admiration. "You're amazing, Miss Paulini." She smiled softly. "I love you, Mr. Smith." They shared another kiss, hands gently intertwined. "I want to be closer," he finally said, wanting to shift for comfort. She smiled, understanding what he meant. They worked together, adjusting and enjoying their closeness. It was a moment rich with feeling. and he felt relaxed with her. "Shall we?" They laughed, both enjoying the lightness of the moment. "I'm going to miss you," she said quietly. "So much." AJ nodded. "I have it worse. I'll be here without you." She smiled sweetly. "I love this place." "So do I," AJ replied, thinking about how much this spot meant to him. He felt both happy and a bit sad about the idea of moving on. "We need to find somewhere of our own." Thanks to Julia, Millie and Milton's was doing well, offering tasty snacks and lunches. The online reviews had improved, and business was thriving. With his engagement, AJ was ready to leave for paying guests. Amaya's expression turned thoughtful. "Where do you want to go?" "Here in Camberley," AJ said. "I found some nice places online." She looked at him impressed. "You've been looking already?" He nodded, and she smiled brightly at him. "That's great." "I'll check them out while you're away," he suggested. "I'll send you pictures." "And videos," she added playfully, eager to know all about it. "Papa will want you to ask for my hand the right way." "Shouldn't I wait until the divorce is final?" She thought for a moment. "Maybe, but I can talk to Mama. She might help." She laughed, imagining their future together. He chuckled, feeling lighter. As their talk grew more serious, she asked, "How many kids do you want?" 3 or 4, he answered thoughtfully. "Is that too many?" "No," she replied softly. "As many as you want to have with me." At that moment, he felt a deep affection for her. "What's your dream number?" "Just more than one," she said, looking away. "I always wanted a brother or sister. Sometimes I felt lonely." Thinking of her as a little girl wanting a friend tugged at his heart. "Have you always wanted to be a dad?" she asked. "Yes," he said, reflecting. "I've always wanted kids. It's important to me because of my father. I know it might sound outdated, but—" "But what?" she prompted. "He passed away when I was young. I sometimes worry his memory will fade. My mom loves the photos, but now it's just me and my brother." He placed his hand on her stomach, thinking about the future. "I feel it's my job to keep his memory alive, to give my mom grandkids. I know she still misses him." "Tell me more about him," Amaya encouraged gently. "I remember the joy when he came home. He would lift me onto his shoulders," AJ shared. "He left us too soon. Uncle Gary was there afterward. He was strict but fair, teaching us valuable lessons. That's the kind of father I want to be one day." Amaya smiled, her face warm. "He seems amazing." "At my graduation, I could see how proud he was, even though he tried not to cry," AJ continued, his voice filled with emotion. "He was really special. Mom told me that he promised at my dad's grave to look after us and help us become good people." He paused, tears forming as he remembered. "I cried for 3 days after he died. I couldn't stop." Amaya gently touched his face, her eyes searching his. "That's what I want," AJ went on. "To be that kind of dad. Firm when I need to be, but always there. Always cheering for my child. Uncle Gary showed me how important that is." "I believe you'll be a great father," she said. "You don't need to worry. I'm not." He smiled at her, touched. "And I know you'll be an amazing mom." He saw tears in her eyes. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." She smiled, tears running down her cheeks. "I'm just so happy. I never imagined. I love you so much, Mr. Smith." They shared a sweet moment, holding hands and finding warmth in their bond. After a while, she reached for her phone on the bedside table. "Julia, Belly, and Cindy already know." "I might as well tell everyone else," she said, raising her hand to take some pictures of her ring, choosing the best one. "Talana will be upset that I didn't tell her first," she chuckled as she shared the photo with everyone. "Your turn," she said, handing him his phone with the image ready to send. "Send it to your mom." AJ rolled his eyes but did it anyway, sending the picture to Rachel, then to James. Almost immediately, both of them called him, which made Amaya laugh. "I'm busy," he typed. "I bet you are," his mother replied. James sent a message with an eye-roll emoji teasing him. "Sure, bro. Busy." Then he thought about it and sent the photo as a public message. Might as well get it out there, he figured. The responses came in fast. Don sent a picture of himself pretending to cry, while Pam rolled her eyes nearby. Bill just wrote, "Congratulations." Fred replied, "About time," and Deborah sent heart emojis. Ben Thompson sent crying emojis, showing where he got his feelings from, and then wrote, "Fantastic." Randall's reply was short and sweet. "Good. Smart." Mike added a champagne emoji and mentioned that Greta was sending her best wishes, too. Talana and Leanne, with Rolly cheering behind them, sent excited voice messages, while Kylie sent a dancing emoji with exclamation points. Joran added fireworks emojis and a thumbs-up picture. She snuggled up to him and drifted off to sleep with a smile on her face. In the morning, they shared another sweet moment before getting ready for the day. He hadn't been back to the city since he got on the train and arrived in Camberley. Seeing the familiar skyline and the place he once lived felt strange, almost like he was looking from a distance. With her chatting beside him, everything else felt less important. Now, saying goodbye to her was harder than he thought it would be. He gathered his courage and kissed her again, and she moved closer. Finally, with a sigh, Amaya stepped back as he let go of her. "Back in 3 weeks," she promised. "Go now or I'm not letting you leave," he joked with a smile. She kissed him one last time but then stepped back, heading to her flight. She turned to look at him and smiled as she went through security. He stayed until she waved goodbye and vanished around the corner. His heart felt heavy as he turned to leave, already missing her. AJ stopped in his tracks when he spotted a woman watching him from a few feet away, her eyes wide. For a moment, he narrowed his eyes, surprised and expressionless. The last time he had seen Sheila Parker was outside the coffee shop during a tough time in his life. She had witnessed some of his struggles. "AJ?" she said, surprised. He met her gaze for an instant, then turned and walked away. "AJ, wait!" He heard her hurried steps as she followed him. "Please! We need to talk." "No," he said, not slowing down. "We don't." "AJ, please." He flinched as her fingers touched his sleeve. "Please don't touch me," he replied, feeling uncomfortable. "AJ, you don't understand." He turned to look at her. His voice was soft. "I understand perfectly. You helped set it up. You brought them together. You helped her lie to me. You saw me go through something painful." He noticed her lips shake. "And you were there. You saw my hurt." He tilted his head. "What more is there to understand?" She pulled back slightly but tried to speak. "He loved her. They were great together, and she was my friend. She needed to know. I had to help her." "So our relationship meant nothing? Because someone else came along?" "No, that's not the point. It was true love. She tried to fight it, but—" AJ laughed bitterly. "So I guess I was right. What we had wasn't real love." "Look," Sheila said again, "we didn't think. We didn't know you would react like this. How could you not know I would feel this way?" His voice was still soft, but disbelief showed. "How could you and she not know that my wife breaking my heart would affect me?" "If you had just listened," Sheila said. "She wasn't trying to hurt you, if only you'd tried to understand." He smiled faintly. "I did understand. She wrote it down. My wife found her soulmate, and it wasn't me. I was supposed to be happy for her. I was supposed to celebrate her choice to be with him and wish them well." He looked at Sheila. "How am I doing?" Sheila looked away for a moment, then met his gaze again. "Look, she never stopped caring about you. She still loves you. She's been looking for you. She's been so worried." He stared at her. She was worried. The surprise in his voice made her step back. "She was worried about me when they went to Paris that same day." "You," Sheila stammered. "You just disappeared. You left everything," she thought. We all thought. He knew what they thought, and it bothered him. "No." "I saw you," she said finally, "in Sutton, at the Apex Regal." She pointed toward the security gate. "With that girl." He thought about how he could have missed her, or her boss. "She's very pretty," Sheila said cautiously. "Who is she?" He looked at her for a long moment, then said, "Goodbye, Sheila." "She lost the baby," Sheila said suddenly. AJ paused. "I'm sorry to hear that." Sheila frowned. "Is that all you have to say?" "What else am I supposed to say?" "It was yours. she said, her voice sharp. That stopped him again, many thoughts racing through his mind as everything became clear. It seemed fate wanted a clean break for him. One part of him felt sad, but a bigger part didn't care at all. Sheila looked upset, and he guessed she didn't mean to say what she did. "Goodbye, Sheila," he said again. Then he turned around and walked away, feeling oddly calm. He felt nothing. No hurt, no anger, just nothing. He saw a message come in, asking him to call with "you little rascal" as a friendly term. He smiled and called his mother. A week later, he was worried, very worried, almost frantic. He checked his phone over and over, hoping for a message or a missed call. She had called him 6 days earlier to say she had arrived in Marrakech. She said she loved him and wished he were there with her. She shared a dream about him secretly staying in a nearby hotel while her parents rented a villa. She imagined sneaking away every few hours to see him. After that, nothing. He tried to call, emailed, and even thought about flying to Morocco, but he had left his passport at home when he took the train to Camberley. Then, a letter arrived for him at Millie and Milton's bed and breakfast. It came from Morocco. His hand shook as he felt something small and round inside the envelope. He opened it right there in the reception, and Deborah looked at him, her face turning to worry as she noticed his expression. He took out a neatly printed sheet of paper. "Dear Mr. John Smith," he read, "I am Guillermo Reyes, Dr. Santoro Paolini's private secretary. It is with great sadness that I report—" Suddenly AJ could not breathe, and his legs felt weak. He heard Deborah scream as everything faded to black.